Hey everyone! So tell me, what do you get when you add a controlling mom, a hot mess of a dad, and a bulldog lawyer? Right! A 7-hour custody hearing in front of Judge Wolf. There'll be fireworks, and not because it's the 4th of July.
Last case, Clyde Wy Jr. versus Jennifer Winters. All right. Is the rule requested? Rule has been requested, so any witnesses who are going to testify must go outside of the courtroom and remain outside of the courtroom until you are called to testify. You're not to discuss the testimony of any other witness with anyone until you yourself have testified. Counsel are under a continuing duty to ensure that the rule is complied with. All right, Ms. Burdine, you are the plaintiff, I think. Is that correct?
I do have somebody who's
Well, Ms. McKinney's running the show, so we'll let her make sure. Who is it? All right. All right, Ms. Burdine, you may
Yes, Your Honor.
proceed.
This is going to be a quick opening, Your Honor. We just basically restate everything that's in our petition to establish paternity and to set a parenting schedule, which was filed June 23, 2022. There was no objection filed by the respondent, and a DNA test was, the father subjected to a DNA test and child, which came back and showed 99.999% that he is indeed the biological father of the minor child at issue. And the birth certificate, father also prayed for substantial parenting time until the minor child is of school age. He would like to be able to have the child with him every other 2 weeks. Would be his, if we could wave a magic wand, that's what would happen, is that he'd have the child every other 2 weeks until she starts school. He is a decorated war veteran, was awarded the Legion of Merit, and he'll talk more about that. He has raised 2 other children from a previous marriage. Those children are in their early 20s. Although the relationship with the daughter is strained, during the time that Mr. Wiley had primary custody of that child, she was A-list, honor roll, AP, honors courses, straight A's. But when she went back to live with her mother, that's when the relationship between he and the child deteriorated. So he's got a concern about parental alienation. He has tried for these past, since the child was 2 months old when we filed this petition, he has tried to establish a relationship with Anna Claire, who is the subject child of this action. And the mother she's obstructed his ability to be a father. He's incurred thousands of dollars. He has to come to Nashville, to come to Tennessee to see the child, only to be allowed to be at mother's house with mother standing over him during the time that he's trying to be a father to this child. And he doesn't want to repeat what happened with his last daughter, with this child. And he also has a son, an adult son in his early 20s, who is on track in the military. He's doing really well. And father has nurtured that child to the point to where I think Mr. Wiley will tell more about that. I believe he wants to go to medical school once he's completed with his Army duties. So we're respectfully requesting, and we have submitted our proposed parenting plan, and we're respectfully requesting, Your Honor, that Mr. Wiley be allowed to have substantial parenting time with this minor child, but the minor child's birth certificate be reflected to show that Mr. Wiley is the father of the child, and that the name Wiley is added to that birth certificate. What's interesting to note is that the minor child does not have the same last name as her mother. I believe, and Mr. Wiley will talk more about that, the mother's name is not the same as Anna Claire's. So it's odd that the child doesn't even have the same surname as either parent. And we submit that it's in her best interest for her to be able to identify and have Mr. Wiley's name added to her birth certificate. And we understand, Your Honor, that due to the fact that at no fault of Mr. Wiley's, it's been 2.5 years that this child, she was 2 months old when we filed. It's been 2.5, almost 3, well, it's been 2 years since we filed, that there may have to be some acclimation period, and he's well aware of that. He's just ready to be out and able to have a relationship with Anna Claire, and not under the thumb of the respondent.
Good, thank
Okay.
you. Ms. Roberts?
Counsel. First of all, Your Honor, this petition was filed on 6/23 of 2022. The child was born on January 16th of 2022. At the time, Mr. Wiley was still in the military in the process of retiring. My client was living in the state of, he was in the state of Alabama. My client was in the state of Alabama. My client is a widower, tragically, and started a relationship that she had previously known Mr. Wiley and resulted in this pregnancy. My client has never held anything out other than Mr. Wiley is the father of this child. And we admitted as much in our answer, in our counter petition. What's interesting to note that they want to talk through no fault of their own is that it's never been a question that he fathered this child, but they filed this petition and then later filed a petition to establish a temporary parenting schedule. And then we appeared in court before Your Honor at that point in time, Mr. Wiley began to, even though he had filed the petition for paternity and alleged that he was in fact the father, he asked to request a DNA test, which again, we did not dispute, we did not object to it. If he questioned his paternity, then again, he had every right to have that, and we did not question that. But again, if he was questioning his paternity, then he questioned whether he fathered the child, so the issue of any temporary parenting schedule was stopped based on Mr. Wiley's request to legally establish and to scientifically establish that he was the father of this child. I coordinated on their behalf the DNA testing to be done, and that was done post haste, and then we're back before the court in order to do this. The issue, and again, Mrs. Winters has allowed Mr. Wiley to come to her home basically anytime he's requested to visit with the child. The issue being is that Mr. Wiley retired from the military after a number of years of service. He is living in the state of Florida, as we understand it, in Panama City. Mr. Wiley has a significant alcohol problem. His home is not suitable. It's on the Intercoastal Waterway, as we understand it. There's no fence between the Intercoastal Waterway and the backyard. This is now a 2-year-old child. Mr. Wiley has had a very volatile live-in relationship that most recently, that his counsel did not disclose, that last week he was arrested for aggravated domestic assault with a weapon and is currently on bond conditions, and in fact, as I understand it, in talking with the bonds people, did not notify his bondsman that he was leaving the state today. I've notified them, well, I haven't, Your Honor, but we have reached out and advised to see whether or not he was authorized to leave the state of Florida. But he is currently pending felony charges that the state has picked up to prosecute, and it's alcohol related. Mr. Wiley's social media posts are replete with the fact of his use of alcohol. Again, nothing wrong with it. This man has served our country and has retired and is now living a, if you will, maybe Jimmy Buffett vagabond lifestyle on the Intercoastal Waterway of Panama City, and alcohol is a big part of what he does. We have hired a private investigator and had him followed. He spends hours upon hours at local establishments there in Panama City, imbibing, getting into arguments publicly with his girlfriend, who is now the victim of his assault. He is estranged from his daughter, the adult daughter. She's here. We have gotten her here. to testify about his parenting skills, the fact of how he treated and mistreated her and alienated her from her mother. And again, it's just a situation, Your Honor, we have a 2-year-old child that he is the father of. And what we are asking is that he be allowed to come here and visit the child here until a certain amount of time when the child is able to articulate and to discuss and to say what's going on, because certainly we are concerned for her safety. Whether you call somebody an alcoholic or not, that's the easy way out. But again, as Your Honor has often heard from your predecessor on the bench, when Judge Martin, that we both had the pleasure to do, that,
Alcohol is causing a problem in your life, you got an alcohol problem.
Yes, sir. So whether you call it this or not, what you name it is something else. But again, it's culminated, and I thought it was poignant because I've, again, trolled Mr. Wiley on social media, as most attorneys do in cases. And one of his posts was quite humorous, that he was talking about my client and says, "Karma is a bitch." That's his quote. And less than a week before we come to trial on this case, knowing that our issue is his alcohol abuse and his erratic behavior when he is drinking, he gets himself arrested. So his words are very poignant.
Right. Ms. Brown, you may call your first witness. That would be Ms. Winters, if you'll come forward, please. If you'll come around, I'm going to ask you to come around and raise your right hand and be placed under oath.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Jennifer Ann Winters.
Okay. And
Ms. Winters, you have a soft voice. Pull that microphone towards you a little bit. You can pull the base of it toward you so you don't have to scoot right up to it. Thank you.
Jennifer Ann Winters.
and how did you meet Mr. Wiley?
We had a relationship in our 20s, and I've known of him. I haven't.
How old are you now?
41.
Okay. And when you last met up with Mr. Wiley in this latest romantic relationship, when was that?
February of 2021,
And where were you living at the time?
Alabama.
Okay. And where was Mr. Wiley living at the time?
Alabama.
Okay.
I was actually staying in an RV. My address was Alabama, but I was kind of traveling around in my RV because my husband had passed away tragically in our home.
Was suicide, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so you were living in Alabama, met Mr. Wiley, and you entered into a romantic relationship with him, correct?
Yes, briefly.
And from that relationship, you conceived, and Anna Claire was conceived, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Wiley, isn't it true that he terminated his relationship with you because he told you to quit smoking while you were pregnant and you wouldn't stop smoking?
That's not necessarily, that was one of his issues with me, but who ended the relationship, I'm not sure. It was
Okay.
very volatile.
And he's been trying ever since did you tell Mr. Wiley about the when you were getting ready to have the baby? Did you tell him about that?
Yes,
And he came to the hospital, right?
yes,
Okay, so he was there for the birth.
yes.
Okay. And was that during when COVID was in effect and there were lockdowns at the hospital? Do you recall?
I think it didn't have as many restrictions at that time.
So was he able to come in and see the baby?
Yes, after
Okay.
her birth, he came for 1 hour.
Okay. And after the baby was born, Mr. Wiley, he would want to see Anna Claire, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And tell the court before the petition was filed, what was the nature of the visits that Mr. Wiley would have with Anna Claire?
To come and visit with Anna Claire.
Yeah. Okay, so he'd come here to Tennessee?
Yes.
All right. And was he allowed to remove the child from your home?
No.
Why not?
because I didn't feel like it was safe for her to leave with him.
But it was safe to have sexual relations with him that conceived the child?
Sustained, the question is argumentative.
Okay. You've complained today through your attorney that Mr. Wiley has a drinking problem, is that right?
He does.
And when you got involved with him, did he have a drinking problem?
Yes, he did.
Okay, but you still got involved with him,
I did.
and you still had sexual relations with him?
Yes.
Sustained, ask and answers.
So had Mr. Wiley not broken up with you, were you going to break up with him?
I'm not sure quite how it ended. It was just very tumultuous between us, and we parted ways.
Now, when Mr. Wiley comes to visit the child, does he consume alcohol in your home?
No,
Okay, does he bring alcohol in the home?
no,
Okay. Does he smoke?
no,
Do you smoke?
yes,
Do you smoke in the car?
no.
Okay. What do you suggest is the best parenting plan for Anna Claire?
As far as what I would like to see, I do want her to have a relationship with Clyde. I want her to know who her father is, but I also want her to be safe. Her safety is my priority.
Okay. So Mr. Wiley, he came up from Florida yesterday, right?
Yes,
And he reached out to you, didn't he?
last night, yes,
What time?
5:30 p.m.
Okay, so it's not really night, so yesterday afternoon, correct?
At 5:30 p.m.
Okay, and he
Yes.
asked to see Anna Claire, didn't he?
Yes,
And you said no?
because I was in Nashville at the time.
Okay.
And then we got home, ate dinner, and it was bedtime. There was not a scheduled visit planned with us.
And so has Mr. Wiley ever been able to have this child outside of your home, visits with her, unsupervised?
In the front yard, but no, not away from our residence, no.
Okay. Do you drink?
No,
Were you drinking when you were with Mr. Wiley?
yes,
Okay. So you say you were in Nashville yesterday when Mr. Wiley came up to see, and he wanted to see Anna Claire.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing in Nashville at 5:30 at night?
she had swim lessons at 2:30 p.m. and then we went to TJ Maxx, and then we went to get ice cream, and then we went to the playground in Bellevue.
So you went to several different places, but you couldn't take her to see her dad. Is that what you're saying? Ice cream was more important than her father? Is that what your testimony is today? I'm just asking, Your Honor, what her priorities are.
Overrule, I think the question is legitimate as to what the priorities are, so overrule.
So is shopping at TJ Maxx more important than your daughter having a relationship with her father?
No, it's not. We did not have a planned visit. This was sprung on me last night. We talk every day via video, and he has not asked to see her.
Well, you knew you had court today, correct?
Yes,
So you knew Mr. Wiley would be coming up probably
Yes.
yesterday. So you're acting like it was sprung on you, but you knew he was going to be here.
yes, I did.
But you made plans to do ice cream.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Ask a question and allow an answer.
So you're objecting to her not allowing the witness to finish answering, and let the witness answer the question.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. So you knew he was going to be here yesterday?
Yes.
Because there's court today.
Well, I didn't know when he was coming in exactly, no, but I figured that he would be coming in.
Okay. And you decided that ice cream and shopping at TJ Maxx was more important than letting Anna Claire see her father?
We were already doing that as he texted. That was, her sister is in town. We were already there doing that. When he texted me, that's what we were doing.
You were doing TJ Maxx and ice cream at the same time?
No, I think we were at the shopping complex whenever he texted.
Now, you know Mr. Wiley wouldn't consume alcohol if he had Anna Claire, don't you?
No, I don't know that.
He's a single man on the beach. He doesn't have minor children, so he has a good time every now and then on the beach and may post occasional good times on Facebook, correct?
He makes posts regularly on Facebook with his drinking, yes.
But if he had his daughter, he wouldn't do those things. You know that,
I do not
right?
believe that, no.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
I just have a few questions.
All right.
So this final hearing, just,
Yes, ma'am.
And had Mr. Wiley contacted you about him coming to Tennessee for the trial the last time?
Yes,
And had y'all made plans and arrangements in order to know when you could arrange so that he could see Anna Claire?
yes, he was
And
supposed
did he
to.
call, were those arrangements made at 5:30 the day before the final hearing?
No, ma'am.
They were made well in advance, isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he actually, after we were in court, he had arranged to be there that afternoon and then I think maybe the next day or
The
something to
next
see Anna
one, the
Claire?
next 2 days after court.
The next 2 days after court.
Yes, ma'am.
But did he show up?
No, he canceled.
Well, how did he cancel? Did he call and say, look, I'm going back home, make plans, or were you waiting on him?
I was waiting. I reached out to him that night to confirm that he would be there the next morning, and he said via text he could not make it.
Okay. But again, you knew you had a hearing today,
Yes, ma'am.
and do you make yourself and Anna Claire available to have FaceTime with him? And we've got all of those in the logs about virtually, how much
Yes, ma'am.
that's there
Every day.
every day. And do y'all plan those times, or are they spontaneous?
Here recently, we've set a time for around 10 a.m.
Okay. And so when y'all arrange that between yourselves, so at any of those times that he have communication, we're here, today's Friday, did he FaceTime you on Wednesday or Tuesday or Monday of this week?
We did FaceTime those days.
You FaceTime so he
I
could,
FaceTime him.
during those
every day.
FaceTimes, and did he say, hey, I'm gonna be up there early Thursday, so can I see Anna Claire? Or, hey, I'm coming in, I'm not gonna be there till late, so can I see her after court? Can we arrange anything? Was anything like that done from him?
No, he did not.
But previously, when he's come up to court for the things, that's what's happened, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And again, you were previously married,
Yes, ma'am.
and your husband died at his own hands, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then and do you have family here in this area?
Yes.
And what
A
family?
multitude of family here.
Who is it?
A multitude of family here, yes.
Okay.
I grew up here.
This is your,
This-
again, gonna be this would be what you would classify as your hometown, is that
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yeah.
And what do you do for a living, ma'am?
I'm a nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, adult gerontological acute care nurse practitioner. I'm sorry, I have a soft voice. I'm a family nurse practitioner and adult gerontological acute care nurse practitioner.
And currently, are you working a PRN schedule with, at 3 different hospitals?
Yes, ma'am.
One of which is Nashville General Hospital? And
Yeah, yes,
you
ma'am.
work in an ER rotate, you work a PRN
Yes,
through the ER there, is that correct?
yes,
And then you're also picking up shifts at Centennial Hospital in Nashville,
yes,
as well as Horizon Medical Center here in Gibson, is that
yes.
correct?
Mostly Horizon, yes.
And you do that as a result, and your schedule's flexible, so you can be available for your daughter, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you make?
$72 to $75 an hour.
72 at Nashville General, 75 at the HCA
Yes,
hospital.
correct.
Is that correct? And are you working, just how many shifts a month are you working?
I would say 6 to 8 per month.
6 to
and
8 per
6
month.
to 8 per month of various shifts, 6-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts.
And they are
Sometimes 11 hours, but typically 6 or 8-hour shifts.
6 to 8 hour shifts. Okay. And you're a contract employee, so you don't have benefits coming from them, is that correct?
No, I do not.
How much child support, or again, how much contribution is Mr. Wiley paid towards your daughter's care since January 16th of 2022 that she was born?
He's given me 3 separate checks since last year at mediation a year ago, totaling maybe, I can't remember exactly, like either 1,800 or 2,000, but no more than 2,000.
Each check, was that,
no.
the total was
Yes.
about $2,000?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
He's not paid anything regularly?
No, ma'am.
Who covers health insurance on your daughter?
I do.
And do you do that through a private pay?
Yes, ma'am.
He's retired military.
Mm-hmm.
And again, have you have any co-pays or anything?
Mm-hmm.
Have you sent him any bills or anything?
No.
You've done
For
that
the
yourself?
extracurricular activities, I sent him bills for that, but no, not for the health insurance.
And what were those extracurricular activities?
Gymnastics, swim class, music class, and dance class.
And these are just, again, kinder
Yeah,
care type things?
yeah.
Because she's just a
She's
little over
currently
2 years.
in swim and gymnastics, yes.
All right, I'll reserve the remainder of my,
All right, Ms. Burnett, you have any follow-up? Thank you.
The first bill you sent, Mr. Wiley, was 2 weeks ago, correct, for extracurricular activities, right?
Yes,
And
he asked.
did you discuss with Mr. Wiley, hey, I think it'd be a good idea to put Anna Marie in gymnastics?
Anna Claire.
I'm sorry, Anna Claire, in gymnastics, swim. Did you talk about those things before?
No.
No. So you don't really want to include Mr. Wiley into the child's life, do you?
No, I do. I mean, I told him when I did sign her up for that, I've sent him pictures of her at music class or her at swim class.
But you don't discuss those things with him before you do it? You just decide to do it without talking to him first?
I've put her in those.
Right.
No,
So
I
no,
didn't talk to him before I put her in those.
you did not?
No.
Okay. And so the only bill that you've sent him is from 2 weeks ago, correct? There were no other bills?
He offered to pay for her extracurriculars and asked me to send him a copy of all the bills.
Okay.
So I sent him a copy of all the bills for what she's been in since birth.
Okay, and you did that 2 weeks ago?
Around the time, right before court last time.
All right. That's all have you ever been to Mr. Wiley's house?
In Florida or Alabama?
In-
Florida?
Yeah, in
Yes,
Florida,
I have.
where he lives.
Yes.
Okay. And how many bedrooms does it have?
3.
Okay. Would you say it's on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being terrible in, living conditions and 10 being great? How would you rank it?
As far as the house itself,
Yeah.
6.
Okay, why wouldn't you give it higher than a 6?
I mean, it's a house. I mean, I don't know. That's my opinion. I mean,
Okay.
it's an average house.
Is it clean?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sometimes there were roaches in it before. When he wasn't
Florida
living,
bugs.
when he wasn't living there, when he was going back and forth from there,
Okay.
that was an issue, but I'm not sure about now.
All right. But it was clean and safe, and
For the most part, it was
Yeah.
clean, yes.
Anna Claire would have her own bedroom, correct?
I assume so.
Yeah. There's 3 bedrooms in there.
There is.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Anything further, Ms. Roberts?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You may step down, have a seat by your lawyer. Ms. Burdine, you may call your next witness. Well, if you'll come around, please. Ask you to raise your right hand and be placed under oath. Thank you. Have a seat. Mr. Wally, I notice you have a notebook there. I'm going to ask you to hand that to your lawyer. And if you need to refer to that handbook or that notebook for any purpose, then you can do so to refresh your memory, but it is not allowed that you're not allowed to testify from a document without the other side being able to review it, so.
Yes, sir.
Can you state your name for the record?
Clyde Wy Jr.
Okay, and Mr. Wiley, you've heard some accusations that were made against you, that you are just a party animal, irresponsible drunk, living in a volatile home environment, was arrested and charged with aggravated, I can't recall what it was that they said, but with a weapon and all that. So let's address that, and that you live in a dangerous home on an intercoastal waterway that is just not safe for the child at all to live there. So first, let's talk about this volatile live-in relationship that was alleged that you have. Do you live with anybody?
I don't live with anyone.
How long have you lived alone?
Trying to think of the definition of live alone, but
Without any significant others?
right, probably 2 years, 3 years.
Okay. Have you had any roommates?
No,
Okay. And what about adult children? Do any of them live with you?
they do not.
Okay. So you live alone?
I do.
All right. So are you in a relationship?
I'm not in a relationship.
Okay. So last week, it was alleged that you were arrested for aggravated domestic assault. Is that true?
I was arrested last week for the first time in my life, 46 years old. I was arrested because I had an illegal intruder unlock my door and enter my house. I did not provide a statement. I pled the fifth, and I have sought legal counsel. I was arrested because I did not provide a counter statement because of the seriousness of the accusations.
What was the accusation that was made against you?
Assault with a deadly weapon. My door was open, and I grabbed my gun out of my safe, and I met a person at the door, and they left, and they called the police. I did not provide a statement. I've sought legal counsel. On the initial counsel, they said, yes, this is not going to be substantiated whatsoever. Again, I've never been arrested, but before this trial a week ago, I get arrested. So.
Let's fact check a bit, shall we? On May 30th, police were called to a residence in Panama City, Florida, which is Bay County, at about 11:30 p.m. And the above-named defendant, which is Mr. Clyde Wy, was intoxicated at the time, and the victim and he were in a verbal argument. When the defendant began pushing the victim reported she was physically grabbed and pushed and placed in a headlock, quote, by the defendant. The term headlock in this instance means when one person is standing behind the other and wraps an arm around the front of their neck while applying pressure. Is there another type of headlock? The victim stated she never lost the ability to breathe when this occurred. The two separated and continued arguing, but the defendant began pushing the victim again, but this time pushing her into a cabinet, causing a small laceration on the top of her head. The victim also reported during the altercation the defendant punched her with a closed fist multiple times in the face. The officer could see a small bump forming on the upper right side of the victim's forehead, as well as blood coming out of the top of the victim's head. The victim was able to separate herself from the defendant and began gathering her belongings to leave. She walked out the door, got into her vehicle, but realized she forgot one of her belongings. The victim returned, opened the front door, and the defendant pointed a handgun directly at the victim. The victim told the defendant not to shoot her and left the residence. While speaking about this incident, the victim began crying and stated this was not the first physical altercation between the two. The victim appeared scared the defendant was going to cause serious injury to her. The defendant was read Miranda rights, but refused to speak about the incident. Without being asked anything, the defendant spontaneously acknowledged he knew the victim's head was bleeding prior to her leaving the residence. It should be noted defendant and victim were in a dating relationship for approximately 2 years before separating approximately 3 years ago. Mr. Wy was arrested and charged with, like they said, dating violence, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without the intent to kill, and dating violence battery. I think it's supposed to be with intent to cause bodily harm. The following day, he appeared in front of Bay County Judge Brantley Clark.
When the green light comes on, son. State your name, sir.
Mr. Wiley, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wiley, you're before the court today for your first appearance. I cannot appoint the public defender based on your financial affidavit. You've been charged with 2 counts, 1 count of domestic violence assault, which is a third-degree felony, punishable to 5 years in the Florida Department of Corrections and a $5,000 fine, and domestic violence battery, which is a first-degree misdemeanor, punishable to 1 year in the county jail and a $1,000 fine. I reviewed the probable cause affidavit. I'm gonna find there's probable cause for your arrest. Sir, where do you live? How long have you lived in Bay County?
About 8 years.
And are you working?
No, sir, retired military, 26 years.
Okay. And is there a prior record on Mr. Wiley?
No, sir.
Mr. Wiley, I recognize your contacts with the community and your lack of a prior record, but based on the nature of the charges, I'm gonna set a bond of $10,000 on the aggravated assault, 1,000 on domestic violence battery. As special conditions, you're not to possess no possession of a firearm while you're on bond.
Yes, sir.
You're to have absolutely no contact with. Your
Yes,
next
sir.
court date is June 17th at 9 o'clock. Good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Step to your right to the T. When the green light comes on, sign. Next.
And did you know the intruder?
Yes.
Okay. And was this person welcome in your home?
No.
Who was this person? Okay, and who is,
It's an ex-girlfriend I broke up with 3 months ago.
okay, and did she live with you 3 months ago?
No.
Okay. You were also accused of being a party animal, drunk all the time, alcoholic, and there's social media posts to prove it. What's your response to that?
I'm very transparent on social media. A drunk party animal, no. It's some of the things that, yeah, I don't know. Can you restate the question?
Well, let's ask this. Do you drink alcohol?
No, not anymore.
Have you ever had a DUI?
No.
Have you ever been charged with a DUI?
I've never had an alcohol-related incident in my life of
Okay.
46 years.
And the incident that happened last week when someone broke into your home that was unwelcome, wasn't invited.
Sustained.
Okay, so the intruder that came in your home, was that person invited into your home?
They were not.
Okay.
It was illegal entry.
Okay. So, was that an alcohol, in the charges that have been brought against you, is any of it have to do with alcohol?
Her statement, it says it, but the police were called an hour and a half later. I didn't know the police were called. She left, went to her house, called the police on the beach side. It's approximately 30 minutes from her house to mine. She drove to her house, called the police, was interviewed. The police traveled from her house to my house. Okay,
Well,
it's factual.
when there's an objection, Mr. Wilder, you just need to sit quietly. Well, he's represented by counsel, so let me make sure of it. Mr. Wiley, you are charged, as we now know, in a felony charge down in Florida. Whether you think you're guilty of it or not is not my issue. The issue is you have a pending criminal case in the state of Florida around this incident that we're talking about. You have an absolute right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States to decline to testify about that episode. If you testify about that episode, no one can compel you to testify about it. If you do testify about it, then anything that you say can be used against you in the prosecution of that case. For example, if you offer testimony today about what happened and what all took place, which you've already done, under questioning from your lawyer, then what I would point out to you is that a transcript of that can be prepared and sent to the prosecuting attorney in the state of Florida. I'm not saying it would, I'm just saying that that's the issue you've got. So whether or not you choose to testify about this whole episode or not, you and your lawyer need to decide whether that's in your best interest. But I'm advising you that you have a constitutional right not to be forced to testify and give evidence against yourself. If you choose to testify, you need to understand that anything you say can be used against you, okay?
Yes, sir, I understand. So with that, I had an illegal intruder enter my house with that through a locked door multiple times.
Now, you say you don't drink anymore. When did you stop drinking?
A week ago, completely. Stopped
Okay,
drinking.
why?
Well, I've never been to jail, and that was enough to, I think sometimes in people's lives, you have events. This was one of those.
Did the intruder, was the intruder a drinker,
Yes.
to your knowledge? Okay. Before you quit drinking, how often did you drink alcohol?
On the weekends,
What about during the week?
usually not.
And when you drink on the weekends, when would you start drinking?
Just depends. On a fishing trip, I'd bring a six-pack, would be out all day, I'd drink a six-pack of beer. On an evening, going out to eat, have a few beers while we're going out to eat, get an Uber back home. I mean, I'm in a beach town.
What about hard liquor? Do you drink that?
I don't.
Just
I'm
beers?
Not saying never, but, yeah, just beer.
Okay. Now, if Anna Claire came to visit, right, and she's staying with you, do you think it would be wise to go out to eat and have beers?
Of course not. Of course not. I've went in Dixon, we went out to eat, and the waitress has said, "Do y'all want a beer?" It's like, no. I mean, it's not like I'm addicted to beer or alcohol. We went out to eat with the mother and not had beer. It's not a big deal. And of course, around my child, without incident, the previous incident last week, I would not drink around my daughter. I've never have. When we go out, I don't drink, period.
Okay. So you came and hired my law firm to help you. How old was the child when you called us?
I mean, roughly 3 months old. I think there's a motion roughly 6 months. And so it's 3 months to 6 months. When I realized I was being shut out of my daughter's life and I could not negotiate with the mother to be a part of her life, that's when I sought legal. Obviously, I don't want to pay money for a lawyer that would best be served going to the child.
So let me ask you this. How did you meet the respondent?
I met her
Mother.
at the Tin Roof in Nashville 20 years ago.
The Tin Roof in Nashville?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was 20 years ago. And was she married at the time?
She was not married.
Okay. And when did you and she most recently, become romantically involved?
I
Do
think
you recall?
roughly January, February.
What year?
I don't know, 3 years ago.
2021?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you learn she was pregnant?
Around May, mid-May, end of
Okay.
May.
And were you two still in a relationship at that time?
We were having some issues, some friction, and then she was pregnant, and then I'm like, we're gonna make it work. And then we didn't make it work.
Why not?
Just issue, I mean, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was her smoking while she was pregnant. It bothered me. It created a lot of emotional distress. I felt like if the child had birth defects, I would have a very difficult time forgiving her of that.
Okay. Now, you requested a DNA test, right, in your petition. Why did you do that?
Well, I'm not sure. I believe how it even, we had a court custody case for like whatever this is, custody, how we're gonna divvy up the custody. And then as we got in there, it was unanimous that we had not gotten a DNA test yet, and we all agreed it was a good idea. I did ask the mother if I could get a DNA test, and she said, go through the courts. And I'll stick with the questions, but throughout the process, there was conflict of interest with mediation and stuff. There were significant delays to get to where we are today, that to include last month, but that's a whole nother question.
Okay. And so, tell me what it's been like since Anna Claire's birth, the nature of your relationship with Anna Claire. Tell the judge.
I've been shut out. I mean, some of the comments, he stayed in the hospital for an hour. I didn't drive 16 hours to see my daughter for an hour. It's time for mother to breastfeed. You have to leave the room. I waited for a day and a half in the cold. It was in the winter. It was January 16th. We had a bad storm that year, COVID. I sat because the hospital didn't have visitors. I sat between two shutting doors of freezing cold winter. I went in the parking garage and curled up in the back of my car and realized I'm going to get carbon monoxide poisoning. So I walked the streets. I come here, I live in a hotel. Either I fly or I rent it, it's enormous cost. I know I haven't provided a lot of support, but I've spent a lot of money to see my daughter only to be rejected.
How much have you spent?
Around $20,000.
Okay. Has Respondent offered to help you with any of those travel expenses for you to have a relationship with your daughter? Has she offered to take the child to Florida?
She's been to Florida and I found out through social media. She's been hours away from me and not mentioned it or not allowed me to see my daughter. She's been at least twice.
So
I've
Anna
asked
Claire,
one time when she was down there through mutual friends posting pictures, hey, are you in Orange Beach? I was just in Pensacola, 30 minutes away. Can I see my daughter? No, we're doing beach stuff. And then another time was after the fact where she was a couple hours away and didn't tell me.
so how many times have you seen Anna Claire at your home in Florida since her birth?
Never, of course. I've never seen my daughter without being inside of her mother's house. And bankers hours, you can come at 9, you have to leave at 11. So I go retract back to a hotel. You can come at 1, you have to leave at 5. Can I put her to sleep? No. Yesterday, I FaceTimed my daughter around 5 o'clock. It was daylight. I'm 5 minutes up the road. Can I see her in person? No, Clyde, we're going to bed. She's running around jumping fully clothed. I can't see my daughter. I haven't seen her.
So you're saying that was around 5 in the afternoon?
Ish, yes.
And she told you, the respondent said, no, we're going to bed?
We FaceTimed and I said, I'm 5 minutes up the road. Can I give her a hug? No, you cannot, Clyde. Why? Because we're going to bed. But she's jumping around wide awake. I can't give her my daughter a hug. No, you cannot, Clyde. That was yesterday. That clarifies some of the stuff. I know that you don't know all the details. It got a little bit convoluted when y'all were talking, but that was yesterday. The previous visit, I drove 16 hours last month, only to be turned away. Okay, for me to stay an extra day, like I wanted to see her after the court is what we agreed upon. Can I see her after the court? Jenny said, you can see her the next day. For me to see her the next day means I have to stay in a hotel. I was wired after this court case. Okay, I wouldn't have been able to sleep in a hotel room. I was just sat here all day. So I got in my car and left to prevent a rental car charges $150 and a $150 hotel night room. And then Jenny says, hey, you can see her at 9 tomorrow. And I'm like, I already left. I would love to see my daughter. I mean, I drove 16 hours not to see her. She makes it so difficult every time. I put so much effort and money into seeing my daughter just to get rejected every time.
Now, you were also, opposing counsel stated that your home is not safe for Anna Claire because you live on an intercoastal waterway.
I do not live on an intercoastal waterway.
Well, let me ask you, what is an intercoastal waterway for us landlocked
Well, I'm
people?
a charter captain, so an intercoastal waterway is a navigable waterway that provides safe passage for vessels. It's kind of like a freeway, if you will, of the water that goes through the states, just to give them safe passage.
And so you say you don't live on one?
I live on a canal.
A canal?
Which is about like having a swimming pool in your backyard, which.
How deep is the water?
It's 5 feet max.
How far is it from your house?
It's off the back. It's in the backyard.
But how far?
Probably 40 yards.
Okay, 40 yards. And are you able to put a fence up or anything like
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Okay, why haven't you done that?
I would put up a fence if Anna Claire was there. That was one of the stipulations.
Have you looked into doing that?
Yeah, it's easy. You can put up some screws and a fence right on the patio. It's very easily, if that was a perimeter, that's something you can put together with a drill, a screwdriver, and some fencing. Just like she has a fence and a pool. It's the same thing.
Okay,
I mean, for practical purposes.
okay. Now, do you think that that's why you haven't been able to have your daughter in Florida, because of this canal?
No, of course not. Describe
your home.
It was built in the 80s, but it's been fully remodeled. It's nice. It's 3-bedroom house. It's been fully renovated and modernized. It's a nice home.
Does Anna Claire have her own bedroom there?
Yes, she would. I mean, she's never been there, so yes, of course she would.
Okay, and do you have furniture for her?
I don't have furniture now, but it just takes me going to the store and getting it. I mean, I I would have everything she would need.
Okay. How long would it take for you to get all that?
Day of. It's just like, do you have a car seat? I don't have a car seat, but if you said you get to take Anna Claire, I'm buying a car seat. I have
Okay.
provisions to get that.
And how long have you lived at the house that you're at in Florida?
About 4 years.
And what city is it?
Panama City, Florida.
Okay, Panama City. Do you plan on staying there for a while?
I don't plan on moving.
Now, let's talk about your history as a parent. How many other children do you have?
I have 2 children, so 3 children total. 2 other children.
The other children, other than Anna Claire, how old are they?
They're 24 and 23.
Okay, and so the 24-year-old, is that your son, daughter?
24 is my daughter.
Okay, and how's your relationship with your daughter?
It's not good.
Why not?
I mean, that's a long story. We had a falling out when she went to live with her mother. So she lived with me until 5th grade. I got a divorce from her mother. We had shared custody. I went to Korea for 3 years. In the new custody agreement, for the length of time I was in Korea, she would stay with her mom while I'm in Korea, and I would get her on the backside. So she lived with her mother for 3 years in Washington State. She lived with me for 3 years in El Paso, Texas.
Okay, when she lived with you in El Paso, Texas, how old was she?
She was in 7th and 8th grade. Correction, 8th and 8th grade, between 7th and 8th grade.
So how long did she live with you in El Paso?
About 2 years, 2 years.
Okay. 7th and 8th grade, and then she went back to live with her mother?
9th grade was Enterprise, Alabama. In the military, we moved, so I moved
Okay.
to Alabama.
So you had her 7th, 8th, and 9th, she was primarily with you?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened, and so you say until the 9th grade, what happened when she was in the 9th grade that, caused her to not live with you primarily anymore? Was that part of the agreement?
Yes, the children were allowed to choose who they would live with. She chose to live with her mother. She had a natural affinity to live with her mother. My son chose to live with me.
Now, during this time that your daughter lived with you, those 3 years, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, what was the nature of your relationship?
It was good. I thought it was healthy. I have pictures that I've showed you. It was a very happy. She was a popular kid. She was happy. She made straight A's. She did it. She was in the band. Had friends. We hiked. We ran. We did good things. I did deploy to Afghanistan for 9 months during that period, and I was in the field, so it was off and on. But she was a vibrant, thriving, happy child.
And how are her grades?
Straight A's.
Okay.
Honors. When I put her in Enterprise, I had to fight to enroll her in 9th grade when we transferred. She was taking Algebra 2 previously. They would not allow her to take Algebra 2. It was a terminal math for seniors only. So she agreed, because she had finished half a semester of it, that she wanted to take the Algebra 2 course. She finished as a freshman with straight A's in Algebra 2, which was unprecedented. They didn't want to let me put her in the class. She was a stellar student in 9th grade.
And then when she chose to go live with her mom, when she was in the 9th grade,
Her mother had I had rules, structure, discipline. Her mother had very loose rules, structure, or discipline. She got expelled from school shortly thereafter. Her brother notified me she was posting on Snapchat, doing drugs.
I'm gonna object to hearsay, like a foundation.
She did get expelled.
Mr. Wiley, I think I've instructed you to be quiet when there's an objection on the floor. Your objection is as to hearsay and the foundation for his knowledge.
well, Your Honor, if I can state that it's not, I don't think he's saying it for the truth of the matter asserted, but he's just stating it as to what, his home life is like versus the home life at
Stating what
Petitioner.
happened after she went to live with her mother, so if it's not really relevant to his home life, then so sustain the objection. It wouldn't be relevant if it's not being offered for the truth of the matter. If it's offered for the truth of the matter, then it's hearsay.
So how did you know that she was expelled from school after she went back to live with her mom?
That's what people told me. I didn't have a.
So did she ever come back to see you?
Well, he's not telling I mean, I've already sustained your objection, but I'll sustain it again if you want me to. So, sustained.
So did she ever come back to live with you after she went to live with her mother?
She did not.
Okay, you know she's here to testify against you today about how awful you are.
I don't know what she's testifying.
But she's here as respondent's witness, so,
The question, you're objecting to the question is argumentative, assuming facts not in evidence. Sustain the objection.
so you know that she's here as the respondent's witness to testify today.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that tell you? And what is, no,
We don't have the best relationship.
okay, why not?
Okay, so I believe it stems a lot from money, just based on, so she graduated, I went to her graduation, and found out, that she,
Well, I need to hear his answer to determine what exactly it is he's about to say. Continue, if you will.
she graduated from a school for at-risk children who had been kicked out of school.
Were you at
And-
that graduation?
I was there, yeah, in Washington State, yes, ma'am. I had personally had savings to support my children to go to college, not to fully fund it, but to help them out. I asked her if she was going to college. She said no. I'm comfortable. She was working at a pizza place, living in her mom's basement with her boyfriend. I suggested the Air Force might be a good opportunity. She rejected that. She said, "Where's my college money?" I said, "Do you plan to attend college?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, you don't have college money per se. I told you I would like to support you in college, whatever capacity we have to negotiate."
It's not, Your Honor, she's here as a witness. She's on the witness list.
And just because someone's on the witness list, you mean they should be able to introduce statements or a conversation?
Well, I guess I could call Mr. Wiley back as in rebuttal if she does.
I think that's the proper way to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't change anything that she's on the witness list.
Okay.
It is still being introduced statements that this person made outside of the courtroom that you're introducing to prove what she said was true, which is classic hearsay.
Okay,
All right, sustained.
we'll reserve those questionings.
Your question
Honor,
was
can we-
about why
if-
she's mad.
Yeah,
And this is why, because of money, not giving her money as she demands it. And that was the story to lead up to it.
got it. Now let's talk about your son. How old is he, your adult son?
23.
23. And who was the primary caretaker of your son when he was under 18? Who do you spend him
He lived with me for all but 3 years.
Okay,
While he
all
was in
right.
Korea.
And what 3 years was that he did not live with you?
It was roughly the 6th, 7th grade for him.
Okay, and so when he graduated high school, he was living with you primarily?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell the judge, where is he at in life right now?
Yeah, he attended Auburn on a full ride scholarship, got a degree, bachelor's degree in biomedical science. Also got picked up for flight school. He's a lieutenant in the United States Army at this time.
Okay. And how often did he see his mom while he was in high school?
Probably not enough, but over Christmas and summers.
Now, your daughter and your adult daughter and your adult son, do they have the same mother?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about your career history. Are you just recently retired from the military?
Yes, ma'am, 2 years ago.
Can you tell the court more about that?
I enlisted, drove tanks, and then reclassed, changed my job to military intelligence, then applied for U.S. Army flight school in 1999. Deployed to Afghanistan right after September 11th with the 101st, which is right up the road at Clarksville. Flew with the 160th, the unit that got bin Laden, Operation Red Wings. I was a part of that while it was happening. They made a movie, Lone Survivor, about it.
So is it the U.S. Army?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your rank at the time of retirement?
Chief Warrant Officer 5.
Okay.
I ran the officer school as my last assignment. I was the deputy commandant.
And how long were you in the military?
26 years.
Any medals or anything like that you received?
A lot.
Can you describe those?
Yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service Medal, Air Medals, Army Combination Medals, many, like 8 of them or something like that.
And do you get retirement from the military?
I do.
Okay, and how much is that?
It's roughly, after taxes, $5,000.
Okay, before taxes?
I have to add 20% to that, $6,000.
Okay, $6,000 a month. Do you have any other income?
Yes, I have a rental.
Okay, and how much do you make off your rental minus expenses?
$800.
Okay, so would you say that, is it your testimony that your gross income's around $6,800 a month?
Roughly, yeah, whatever I put on the sheet. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
And you also heard the respondent testify that she has private insurance for Anna Claire. Have you tried to work with respondent on getting the child? Do you have
Yes.
health insurance available to you?
I have insurance available for the child to provide, and I've tried to put her, but I've went to the offices to get her added, and I'm not on the birth certificate. And I've reached out to the mother. Can I please get on the birth certificate so she can get on my health insurance? I'm
What was
paying
the
for it.
mother's response?
We'll do it through the court.
So she said, not until we go to court,
Correct.
pretty much.
Pretty much with all of this. It's very difficult working with her.
And is this TRICARE insurance? And is there a cost for that, for Anna Claire?
I pay for it. Yeah,
How
I pay
much
for a
is it?
family plan. I don't know. $50 a month or $100.
Okay.
I don't know. But I'm on a family TRICARE plan in the event Anna Claire, I get on her birth certificate.
Now, you also heard the mother respondent testify that you haven't provided any support except for maybe $1,800, $2,000 since the child was born. Why haven't you given her any financial support?
Ms. Burgon, I've from the 6-month mark, I've been trying to go to court. I did not expect it to take this long for the judge to order me to pay whatever's fair to integrate this child, us into each other's lives. I would gladly pay what's needed. This is my child. This is why I'm here. I'm fighting. Ms. Winters asked me, will you sign your rights away early on? And I'm like, no.
When did she ask you that?
Around the time I got a lawyer, within the first 6 months. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I mean, that's why I'm here. I want to pay whatever I need to. I want to support my child. That's my child. That's the right thing to do.
Can we go back to your adult daughter again? I've got a question. So your relationship with her is it's on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being awful and 10 being wonderful.
She hates me. I love her. She hates me.
And based on your personal knowledge, why?
I believe this is a product of failed parenting. This is a product when parents don't work together and stack each other. My house was disciplined. Her mother's was not. It's been objected, so I don't know how to say. When I saw her brother in the Snapchat posting the stuff, I reached out to mother and said, hey, what kind of parenting are you doing? Instead of the mother replying to me, she went to the ninth grader. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Sustained.
Yeah. That's right.
So when she went to go live with her mom, it's your testimony that her mother just refused to cooperate and work with you in facilitating a close relationship?
Sustained. Don't leave the witness.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. If you were to be the primary residential parent of this child, in facilitating a relationship between the mother and the child, how important do you think that is?
Very important.
And what would-
Extremely important.
What would you do?
I would facilitate her. I do it now, even when I'm there. I say, tell your mother you love her. Mother's Day, well, that's me, Mother's Day cards, but I support Anna Claire's relationship with her mother very actively. The reverse is not true. When I'm on the phone, because I'm seeing her through a video screen, obviously she listens to her mother. And I asked, Jenny, can you help her say, because I'm saying, hey, I love you, she's running around. Can you tell Can you help get her to say, tell your dad you love him? She will not do that at all. I've heard her say, tell Uncle Josh you love him when I was in her house. She will not do that to me. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't.
And what are you doing for a living now?
I'm retired.
Okay.
I've lived very modestly and conservatively.
So if you were a full-time parent or even a 50-50 parent, I mean, there's been some concern raised about alcohol. And
I don't drink anymore, and I know that's a big statement. I don't drink anymore. This was a wake-up call.
are you going to go to restaurants where people are having a good time and post on social media?
Am I going to go to a restaurant with my daughter? Probably, but not a bar restaurant.
Okay.
I will do whatever the court says, but you're asking me a question. I'm going to answer honestly. Probably go to a restaurant, probably post her on social media, yes. Am I going to drink? No. Am I going to bring around people that drink? No.
Are there any concerns that you have about, what concerns, if any, do you have about Anna Claire living primarily with Respondent? Her ability to care for the child?
I will say this, early on, when she was working full-time, I know nothing about the mother's work arrangements or Anna Claire's baby, my own daughter, I don't know anything, if babysitters or nannies or what, but I know at one point, this is why I got a lawyer, I knew Jenny would have to go back to work after maternity leave, and I'm like, okay, that'll be a driver where she'll need me to watch my daughter. And instead of leaning on the father to watch the daughter, she said, I'm hiring a nanny. And I do believe for a period of time, if not currently, she would rather hire a nanny than let this child be with her father. And that was very upsetting.
And she was a nurse at this time, after she got off maternity leave, and
Right.
based on your personal knowledge, what, was she traveling? I mean, what was it that she needed a nanny
I don't know her
for?
business. We weren't together, so I really don't know her business. I just said, when you go back to work, can I watch our daughter? She said, no, I'm hiring a live-in nanny. She would prefer to pay the money, hire a live-in nanny, than to have her have a relationship with her father. That's when I said, okay, I need to get a lawyer because you're never going to let me see my daughter, our daughter.
Okay, I just have like, just a couple more questions. What are you asking the court to do today with regards to parenting time?
I just want to be a part of my daughter's life. Whatever the status quo is, I have no part of my daughter's life.
Status quo is you're not seeing your daughter at all right now. So you want that?
I would like to have her as much as possible without infringing upon the mother's ability. In court, I mean, in a perfect world, you get 50% of the time with the mother, 50% of the time with the father. That's what I would like. I know we live in it. I am not trying to keep a daughter from a parent. I feel like, based on what's being asked and what's been done, that absolutely a parent is trying to keep a child from the other parent. One's interest, it's interest of the child. One is positional of, if I give anything, I lose, and I can't lose.
What would you do if your daughter was in your house and an intruder came into the house that you didn't want in the house?
The same thing. Nobody wants crime. Nobody wants to be a victim of crime. It happens. It happens.
So your proposed parenting plan that you filed 2 years ago, you were asking for a 50-50 parenting arrangement, where it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Why were you asking for that?
That was the most practical plan I said, again, in a perfect world, our daughter has access to both parents, that knows that both parents love her.
And you have in here that you would meet halfway at, and I may not be pronouncing this right, Calera, Alabama?
Of course.
Or Calera,
Yes,
Alabama,
ma'am.
for the visitation exchanges?
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, it's obvious that 50-50 wouldn't work once this child is school age, because you're down in Florida and mother's up here. So what would you ask the court to do once the child enters kindergarten?
Ma'am, I would bring it to consideration of the court with what has been done. My biggest fear now, so we get a parenting plan, we've got to work together. We have to work together for the interest of the child, or That's not good. We have to think about the child. So I am afraid offline, we get this stuff stamped and a parent alienate, y'all know, y'all are legal experts. Alienation, I did research on that last night. That's where you turn one child against a parent. That's not good for the child. That creates big problems. And I'm concerned about that. I'm very concerned about that.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Roberts?
$46. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 26 years, I think 8 months. A lot of places. I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky, Fort Irwin, California, Fort Huachuca, Arizona, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Fort Rucker, Alabama, Hunter Army Airfield, Georgia, Fort Rucker, Alabama, Camp Humphreys, Korea, Fort Bliss, Texas, Fort Rucker, Alabama.
And so during that 26 years of military service, 20 plus of those years, at some point during that time, you were married and had children.
Yes, ma'am.
And your older children, the entirety of their life, you were in the military.
Yes.
26 years, and they're 20.
Yep. True statement.
22 and 23, something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And
20. Yeah.
and so you when you got divorced, how old were you when those children? How old were they when you got divorced?
It was 2007.
2007. So, and I think you
So
testified.
yes, yeah, 7 years. It makes it pretty easy. 7 and 6.
And so you testified that you and your then ex-wife, your first ex-wife, y'all shared an equal residence
We did.
Correct.
After divorce, we had a 50-50.
50-50 schedule. So both your son and daughter were going back 50-50.
Right. Yes,
And you
ma'am.
did that up until the time that you got orders from the United States government that you had to go to Korea.
Yes, ma'am.
So from when was that, from when you divorced in 2007 until you left to go out of country?
It was within a year.
Within a year.
Yeah, probably 8 months.
So you were stationary for that year, that 1 year y'all did joint. Where were you and where was your ex-wife? What community were y'all in?
I was in Enterprise, Alabama, in my house, and she moved into a condo
In Alabama?
in Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, Enterprise.
Close to Enterprise? In
Enterprise.
Okay. So the kids were going to school, y'all were there, you were in the military. She married you knowing you were in the military, correct?
Yes.
And so your travel was before then, and then after you came back from Korea is when you started traveling?
I'm not sure what you mean by travel.
Well, I was just trying, did your children have, and again, for lack of a better way to put it, everybody says, oh, I was a military kid, I've lived here, here, here. Did your children have multiple places they live until y'all settled in for a period of time in Enterprise and then divorced?
Yeah, they moved with the military career.
Okay.
Yeah, so every 4 years.
So your wife and you moved, and the kids made a couple of transitions.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, because they were
Affirmative.
around 7 years old, so they would have been a
Couple
moves.
moves. Yes, ma'am.
And then you got stationed in Alabama, and then you got orders to go to, you divorced, and you got orders to go to Korea, and you were in Korea for 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So for 3 years, you only visited with those children.
3 years, only
Okay.
visited.
You visited because when you.
They
They-
visited me in Korea.
Right, but
Right.
only visited, because again, you were out of country, they were school age.
Right.
So when you got leave and they had vacation, you and your ex-wife coordinated time, whether you came here and visited or they went there and visited.
Yes, ma'am.
So they primarily lived with their mother during that period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
But you and your ex worked out an agreement that however long you were deployed out of country, whatever the military vernacular of that is, that when you came back, they would live with you primarily and visit with her, or y'all went back to the 50-50?
What you just said, the former, not the 50-50, they would live with me for that time period.
For that time
It's
period.
quarter.
Was your ex-wife still in Enterprise at the time?
She was in Washington State.
And did you come back to Enterprise?
I was assigned after Korea to Fort Bliss, Texas.
So no, I didn't come back to Enterprise. I came from Korea, my 3-year stint in Korea. Then I came back to Texas.
2 years Fort Bliss, Texas, 1 year Enterprise, Alabama.
So you were, they went to Fort Hood, then came back,
Fort Bliss,
Fort Bliss, I'm sorry. And your ex was living in Washington State?
the whole time.
And the kids had moved to Washington State at the time
Yes,
while you were gone? And then they stayed 3 years, and then your daughter went back to live with her mother, and your son stayed with you. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes. When the school year ended,
Beg pardon?
when the school year ended,
When the school
to
year
make a
ended.
clean
And then
transition.
your daughter never came back and visited with you after that?
We had the falling out.
And did you spend the remainder of your time there in Enterprise
Yes,
until you retired when?
October 22.
October of 22. And did you have, was that your official discharge date? Yeah, I know military sometimes, you have annual leave time, so you actually quit working, if you would, for the military for a number of months, drawing a salary, but then your actual discharge date is after you use all your accumulated leave. Isn't that right?
It is, yeah.
So was your separation date October, and did you work up until October for the military, or did you have some accumulated leave?
I'm trying to remember if I took terminal leave, maybe 30 days.
Okay, so
month.
you just had
About
about
a
a
month.
month of paid leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then switched over to retirement pay.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was if Miss Anne Claire was born in January of 2022, 10 months later, you're retired. And you already, and you have a home in Enterprise, Alabama, correct?
I do.
And that's where you lived during your time when you and she reunited. and
Well,
got back
Florida. I mean, yeah, sure. Sure, I had a place in Florida too.
Well, and
so-
yet at some point in time during this period of time, or actually before that, you had purchased a secondary home in Florida. And that's the home that we're talking about, right, where you're living now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you would vacation and spend leave time down there, is that correct?
Correct.
And that was that your plan on retirement, to go to?
I really
Live in
didn't have a
Florida.
solid plan, but it was a potential plan.
It was potential, but you didn't have a solid plan. That's what I understood you and possibly my client had discussed that, at the time, at some point in time during there, you didn't really know what you were gonna do after retirement, where you were gonna go, right?
Sure.
But you had, when you and my client, Mrs. Winters, first met some 20, when y'all were in your 20s, it was here in Tennessee.
We met in Tennessee.
You were stationed either at
I was
Probably
stationed
at
in Fort
Fort-
Rucker.
you were, okay, I thought maybe at some
I
point
was,
in time
I
you
was
were
temporary duty,
temporary duty at Fort Campbell?
yes, for about a year.
Okay, and so you met her, and you knew at that point in time that she was from this area? And she had family and stuff here in and around Dixon, correct?
Yes,
And y'all dated for a period of time. It wasn't anything that lasted
it's 3 years,
3 years.
roughly.
You left your temporary assignment, y'all stayed together for a period of time, and then called it quits.
She moved to Alabama.
Okay. And she married?
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, y'all rekindled your relationship in 2021.
Yeah, I'm difficult with following this timeline that jumps a lot, but yes, that sounds reasonable, yes.
Okay. And she was working as a nurse down there, and you were in the military.
When we rekindled the relationship, yes, she was a nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner.
In Coleman, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah,
In Coleman?
she was in Coleman,
Coleman.
which
Okay.
is where she moved when we broke up.
Okay. I mean, she didn't move down there. You're not indicating she moved down there because she knew you were going to be in Enterprise.
She moved down there when we, she was displaced from Dixon to Coleman when we dated 20 years ago to be closer to me. She was a travel nurse, so she relocated, yes, to be
Okay.
closer.
But
and
then y'all
stayed there.
broke up and she stayed in the area.
Correct,
Okay.
and remarried.
And married, not remarried, married.
I mean, married.
Okay. And you had already had your children at that point in time, and they were,
She helped raise my children.
She
I mean,
helped.
kind of. She was a figure.
she was a figure in their
And I
life.
believe she thought I was a pretty good dad.
Okay. So then when you found out that she was pregnant, then you solidified your decision at that point in time, or, excuse me, let me rephrase. When did you solidify your decision to, when you retired, to go to Florida?
I don't know.
Okay, because you had options. You knew you were a dad.
Yeah, but I
January of
didn't-
that year, you knew you were a dad.
Right.
You had sufficient retirement built up to where you weren't going to have to seek alternate employment.
Yeah, I had a mortgage payment that was substantial from that house. Financial means.
From which house?
The house in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, when I retired, I had a enormous mortgage payment down in Florida.
But that you had that mortgage payment from the day you bought the house.
Right, and it wasn't too much prior to meeting her, to rekindling our relationship. It was
But
in
you-
that time period.
Well, my point, sir, is you said at the point in time, you had not made a decision on where you were going to be.
If it was
When you
Alabama or
retired.
Florida, right.
And then you found out that you're going to be a dad and you wanted to be an integral part, as your testimony was, you wanted to be an integral part of this child's life. Correct?
I want to be a part of, yes.
And instead of moving closer, you moved further away.
Ma'am.
Correct?
I didn't move. I lived in houses, so I resided. It's not like I moved. I didn't buy a house. I couldn't afford to buy a house. I just bought that house. I changed
Sir,
where.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I asked you, when you decided to retire, had you solidified where you going to this, I'm retired and moving to Florida. Your words were, no, that was a possibility, but nothing.
Which
I
house?
hadn't decided. That's what you testified, correct?
I don't know.
You don't remember your testimony? Do you have some type of medical condition that precludes you from having a short-term memory?
Probably, yes.
You do?
I don't know that I do or don't. I know I have memory. Yes, I'm sure it's in my medical record somewhere. There's some
Well, again, you
memory
have
stuff.
some issues. You've been in the military, and as many people who protect and defend our country, you were subject to certain conditions in different employments that left you with disabilities. Isn't that correct?
Yes. I just find it very difficult to follow your testimony. You're throwing dates out and a lot of them, and it's just a lot of information in a very fast pace. So I'm committing to an answer, and there's just a lot of details, and I don't have anything to reference dates. I mean, I think anybody would probably have that.
Well, sir, you
Difficult.
recall I asked you what your plans when you retired were, and you said there were no definite plans.
Right.
You remember you testified to that,
Yes,
correct?
yes. Meaning which house I'm going to live in.
Well, that's not what you said. Did you have plans on where you were going to be? And you said no definite plans. But of course,
That's what I meant.
at the point in time when you were talking about retirement, you didn't really necessarily factor in that at 40 some odd years old, you were going to be a new dad. You're going to have an infant.
I'm thinking, that's why I can't hear you, because I'm thinking about what you're saying. So there's obviously miscommunication in what I testified. When I said I didn't know what I was going to do, I didn't know when I retired if I was going to work at Fort Rucker or if I was going to move down to the beach and pursue being a charter captain scuba instructor. That's what I meant when I answered that earlier. So
So
I
you're-
just need to clarify that.
And again, I'm jumping around here, but you're pursuing being a charter captain?
I have to, yes.
Are you being a charter captain now?
I earned my charter captain's license and have been emailed that it's going to, they're sending me my charter captain, NMC.
Are you doing charter captaining right now?
No, I just got my certification, notification. It's being mailed to me.
So when you testified on direct examination with your attorney and she said, are you working? You said no.
Right.
But again, that may be just a little misleading in the fact that you are actively seeking employment.
No, I'm a scuba instructor and I've been one for the last 10 years. And I don't choose to do that as a profession. So I'm addressing the question of when I retired, I did not know what I was going to do. And it was either between working as a flight instructor at Fort Rucker or pursuing something on the water in Panama City. That's all I meant earlier.
So at 46 years old, you have at least two different avenues that are very lucrative in the respect that you can be a flight.
They're not lucrative.
Sustained as to the form of the question, assuming facts not in evidence as to whether it's lucrative or not.
Sir, you have at 46 years of age, after 26 years in the military, you have at least two avenues that you've just testified to be employed, correct?
Yes.
Well, three, actually. I misspoke. You can be a flight instructor.
I would have to pass a physical, which
You
is
can
doubtful.
be a scuba instructor.
I can.
And you have now obtained your licensing to be a charter boat captain.
Yes, ma'am.
And some of the ideas about you relocating after your retirement to a beach community would have taken into consideration that you would have an avenue to earn a living teaching scuba or taking scuba excursions out or being a charter boat captain.
Ms. Roberts, they say the best way to be a millionaire in the scuba industry, start with 2 million.
I'm sorry, could you answer my question?
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Beg pardon?
Can you restate it, please?
Was it a factor when you retired to go to your house in Florida, was you had the availability because you were a scuba instructor and you were seeking your charter boat license, and you would have the availability to use those there in Florida?
No, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I would not be a scuba instructor. I've been qualified for 10 years. I'm not going to pursue that. There's no money in that. You'll go broke. As far as a charter captain, I just started on that this year, and that was a new thing that I just came up with. So at the time, that was not in the books. Something in Florida, if I was going to live in Florida or Alabama. I'm just trying to address clarification from your previous question. When I retired, I didn't know. I had a house that I just bought in Florida, and I didn't know if I was going to pursue a job at Fort Rucker around the military base. I didn't know my options. That's all. I didn't know what I was going to do.
But again, at the point in time you decided to relocate to Florida, you will agree with me that that's further away from your infant, that at the time you left, it was further away from your infant child rather than closer to, correct?
Yes.
And you have, through your emails, text messages, and video chats and all of that, you have professed and stated that she will be the one transporting your daughter to visit you because you moved further away from where y'all were when you conceived the child, correct?
She was conceived in Florida.
Okay.
The child was conceived at the
Okay.
house in Florida.
Okay.
I live there as much as possible.
She moved to Tennessee, you moved to Florida. Y'all both moved, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Well, she moved after she got pregnant. I was in Florida when she got pregnant. I was in Florida. She moved after she got pregnant. So there's an important difference in that.
before she gave birth.
Right.
How much did it cost you to get your charter boat?
$1,000.
$1,000, and you can provide us proof that it was $1,000.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And then you also testified uniquely that you have spent over $120,000, your words, in visiting with your child.
No, not
Understood,
120,000.
20,000.
I said 20,000.
That's what
20,000. Yes.
20,000 visiting with your child.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's because you rent a car when you come up?
Or I fly and rent a
Okay.
car.
Do you
Yeah.
not have a reliable vehicle of your own that you can drive?
No, I don't. Or I would use that.
What kind of vehicle do you drive?
It's a Honda Accord.
Honda Accord that's not reliable.
Well, it has wheel bearings squealing. I mean, I'm not spending money to use it. I don't know what I can say and can't. I'm not spending money just because I want to spend money to use it to make a point in court. I'm spending money because I don't have a reliable car.
And that's all I'm asking.
Yes,
Your
yeah.
car's not reliable to drive from the 9 hours, depending on traffic?
Well,
and
it's
then,
16 round trip.
You know, up
Yes, ma'am.
here and then 9
Yes, ma'am.
hours back, or, and I say 9 because I had
It's-
to, you know.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes I fly.
Traffic coming back and forth, depending on whether it's spring break or whatever, it can be a challenging drive sometimes.
I'm renting a car for these court cases because there's a possibility that I'm buying a car seat and I'm getting to see my daughter. If otherwise I'm flying, it makes sense. That makes sense. Me driving my car, I've done all different ways. We're talking a couple $100 either way,
Just a couple $100 to see your child.
No. It's about $1,500 every time I come up here every 3 months on average to see my child. It costs me $1,500 to see
And that
her.
was gonna be my next question. How often do you come up and visit?
Average since she was born, about every 3 months.
And oftentimes, I want to just show you a couple of pictures that's been provided to your attorney previously. ask you a couple of pictures. You're comfortable enough at the home where you stretch out and take naps, don't you?
I have out of 8 visits or whatever it is, I have taken a nap, usually on my last day there. I'm checked out of the hotel. She has let me sleep on the couch.
I mean, you come in, you're worn out, whether it's just when you.
Sometimes she does, sometimes I sleep in my car.
Okay, whether you're just getting there and you're tired, or whether you're about ready to go back, that on her couch. And take a nap.
I have, after.
Your Honor,
on
we'll
the-
move those in as the next exhibit. And you quit drinking last week,
Yes,
after this event that transpired with your ex-girlfriend.
yes,
And it's true that this ex-girlfriend would oftentimes stay at your home,
sometimes.
okay? Because, again, you knew at discovery that we had hired a private investigator. And virtually daily, she stayed at your home.
Not true.
How many times a week would she stay?
It's
at your
about
home?
50-50.
About 50-50. So
So not more. You're saying virtually every day?
about half the time. So
Roughly,
3 to 4 days a week, she's staying at your house.
sure.
And y'all broke up about 3 months ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And
I see.
okay. And you were booked on what charges?
Domestic aggravated assault with deadly weapon without intent to kill.
And battery.
Right.
You're facing, are they both felony charges?
No,
Just one of them felony charges, the one with the weapon?
no. I don't know which one, to be honest.
Yeah, you could retain counsel down there.
I do have a lawyer.
And who is your attorney?
It's Ben Bollinger.
Ben Bollinger?
Yes, ma'am.
And and you were on a $10,000 bond?
11,000.
Beg pardon, 11,000?
Yes.
10,000 on the felony, 1,000 on the battery charge, is that right?
I don't know.
And you have a corporate bondsman, you paid a 10%
Yes.
premium. And did you have any bond conditions about leaving the state?
I conferred with him and it was okay for me to leave the
You
state.
did notify them?
I did.
That you were leaving the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, we'll move that in as the next exhibit. Now, it's your testimony that this event that transpired, well, let me rephrase the question. You give me a blow-by-blow of what you say transpired on.
I already have, for the most part. I'm going to plead the.
Hold on just a second.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, well, we'll take our lunch recess now, and then we'll deal with that. But if he's invoking his Fifth Amendment privilege, if I'm understanding correctly, he needs to be the one to do it. It's his privilege. We'll be in recess until about 1:20.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Back, please. I would remind you, you remain under oath.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Wiley, when we recessed court, I was asking you to give me your rendition of what transpired on May 30, 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you
Yeah.
do that, please?
Yeah, I mean, we already kind of talked about it as much as I'm going to disclose. But I had a legal entry of a person into my house and they were removed.
What were you doing on May 30th?
I don't know. And honestly, that's about as much as I'm going to.
Okay, wait, I'm going to ask the question and you can answer accordingly, okay, sir?
Okay.
On May 30th, what time of the morning did you get up?
I don't know what May 30th is, but I'm going to plead the 5th if it's regarding, I don't know. I don't know what day that is.
Okay. And on May 30th, were you in the company at any point in time of, and again, I apologize, just I'm blanking.
And
on
I
the name.
sincerely apologize. I don't know
What was
May
your girl-
30th.
What was your previous girlfriend's name? On May 30th of 2024, were you with Ms. George at any time during the day?
I'm going to plead fifth on anything regarding on
Did
the.
Ms. Renee come to your home, and was she in your home at any time on May 30th of 2024?
I'm choosing not to answer.
Were you
recommend so.
drinking on May 30th of 2024?
I can be silent, right? I'm not answering any of these.
Are you invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination?
I did, and that's why you're seeing one side of the story.
Are you invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination?
There's no self-incrimination. Yes, I am. Yes, if it
So
reads
you
like
do
that.
understand that this is a civil proceeding, and you understand by you invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege that you're alleging that the statements that you would be making would incriminate you. You understand that?
Well, I do because that's what got published in
Okay.
public domain is things that are not my side of the story. And I took that risk when I did it. Yes. Yes.
So again, was Ms. at your home at any time either on the 29th of May or the 30th of May?
I had an illegal entry into my home with a padlock through a locked door, and I removed a person from my home. That's all I'm willing to say about this. Thank you.
So it's your testimony your door is padlocked, is that correct? That's what what you just testified to is that you padlock your door, yes?
Yes.
And that you are saying Miss Renee George broke into your home through a padlocked door?
Yes, ma'am. We had just started talking. My door is one button. Beep, 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 beep. I did not give her my passcode. I had just started talking to her. It's like if my neighbor saw my spare key under the rug, does that give my neighbor a right to use my spare key to enter my house?
Okay, sir, you have testified your door is padlocked. What, are you saying a padlock not between where you have a lasp and a hook and you put a padlock on it? Or do you say you have an electronic lock that has a keypad?
I have a
Maybe we're-
keypad.
A keypad, so your door is not padlocked. You have an electronic locking device, correct?
Yeah, that's why I'm not talking about this because it gets misconstrued.
Well,
just
you
like
have
it's
been
right
talking
now.
about it
Right.
when it's beneficial to you. But when you're questioned about it, you're invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege against
I
self-incrimination.
would like to invoke my Fifth Amendment for all of it.
It's true that you and Mrs. George were together voluntarily preceding the police being called, correct?
We were not together.
You were not
It-
together,
define-
not dating together, you were together that day.
Okay.
Were you together with Miss George that day?
Ma'am, I'm going to be silent. I feel like it's disrespectful to you, so I do answer, but I'm just going to be
I'm
quiet.
gonna ask the questions and you can invoke your privilege to each question is asked, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you together on the 29th of May?
No comment.
Mr. Wiley, let me explain to you that where we are now is Ms. Roberts this is a civil proceeding unlike a criminal. Once you invoke your Fifth Amendment right in a criminal proceeding, everything kind of stops questioning about that. In a civil proceeding, the question is asked, you must then say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. The Fifth Amendment gives you the right to say, I'm not going to testify and give evidence that will incriminate me in criminal conduct. That's the whole purpose of it. You have a right to not incriminate yourself. And what Ms. Roberts has pointed out to you is by invoking, you have every right to do it, and I don't blame you for doing it. You've got a pending case. But it is a case where every question she asks, you must either answer the question or say, I choose to invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege and refuse to answer. You can't say no comment. That doesn't work. So
Yes, sir.
you have to, as laborious as it may be,
Yes, sir.
as repetitive as it may be, we're going to go through this, and she gets to ask you all these questions. And you know why she gets to ask you those questions? Because you have a pending criminal case that is in Florida that is a violent crime, and therefore Ms. Roberts is trying to bring out facts about that crime, the alleged crime, and use those in her argument to say that your visitation request should be denied, at least limited, whatever. So that's why she's doing it, so that you understand that.
Yes, sir.
But this process, and if you've talked with your lawyer and she's advised you this is good legal advice for you not to go into those facts because of the fact that you may get, cross-examined about it and say something that could end up sinking your defense in this case.
Yes, sir.
You must answer the questions she asks you, either by answering factually or by saying, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege.
Yes,
Okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
So we're going to go through this, and she has every right to ask every one of
yes,
these
sir.
questions.
Yes, sir.
You're not being disrespectful. You just listen to the question, either answer it or say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's your testimony that you and Mrs. George ceased having a romantic relationship about 3 months ago. Is that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And again, up and until then, she was spending about a half a week with you, would spend the night and stay at your home 3 to 4 nights a week. Is that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And y'all were together on May 30th of 2024 voluntarily. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And you, and at least you had been drinking throughout the day on May 30th of 2024. Isn't that correct, sir?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
While at your home located in Panama City at 2622 Michigan Avenue, Panama City, Bay County, Florida, you and the alleged victim in this case, Mrs. George, got into a verbal confrontation. Isn't that correct, sir?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You pushed Renee George on that date. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You physically grabbed her, pushed her, and placed her in a headlock. Isn't that correct, sir?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You pushed her up against a cabinet in your home to causing injury to her head, a laceration that began to bleed. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And this was inside the interior portion of your home, correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Mrs. George, you told Mrs. George to leave your home. Did you not tell her that?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And she began collecting items that were at the home because she stayed there customarily, routinely.
That's absolutely not true.
And she was collecting items that day at approximately 10 o'clock at night, was collecting items to leave. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And you had grabbed her, punched her in the face, and put her in a headlock, had you not?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
She left your residence and went to her car. Isn't that right?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
She then attempted to re-enter your residence, and you pulled a gun on her. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You had already punched her in the face, and when she came back to the house to retrieve what she alleges is other belongings, you pointed a handgun in her face and told her that you would shoot her if she came any closer. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
The police were called to your house and arrived sometime around 10:30 or 11 o'clock. Is that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
The police found you to be very intoxicated on the 30th. Isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You were in fact under the influence of an intoxicant on the 30th of May. Isn't that correct, sir?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And if you were, and you admit, and you previously admitted that you had a handgun in your possession and that you pointed it at another human being on that date. Isn't that correct? You've already admitted that.
I had a handgun in my possession when my door was unauthorized entry. Yes.
And
And
you
it
had
saved
been-
future conflict because she got all her belongings. You said she got all her belongings and I invoked a Fifth Amendment right from the house, yet she re-entered a locked door. Why are we entering a locked door? I got my handgun, just as I would if anybody was breaking into my house.
So as
She
I
left.
understand, you are agreeing with me that she was at the house, and she was getting her belongings, and she left, and then she came back in and tried to re-enter your home. You're admitting, that's what you just said, correct?
I'm admitting I had a handgun when she unlocked my door and she left after that.
Well, you also said she didn't have the keypad access to get into the door. So how are you now saying she unlocked it when you said, first you said it was padlocked, then we have now defined pad being a keyless entry, not a padlock. That now you're saying she unlocked the door, although you testified that she did not have the key code. Is that right?
No, that's absolutely not right. She had no authorization to have my key code. My key code is a single button, beep, 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 beep. You could look right here behind me if you were right here and see me punching it in. It's not multiple numbers. It was one single, very simple number. I had just started talking to her a couple days prior. We were not even dating. She certainly wasn't some of the things that you've said.
So y'all, again, I asked you, y'all had broken up some 3 months ago and you invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege. Why that's self-incriminating, but you follow you. And so the breakup 3 months ago, would it be, the reason you're invoking your Fifth Amendment privilege to that is because there has been past acts of violence between you and Mrs. George?
I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right because this is a case that it's not substantiated. It's going to get thrown out, and I'm in my own locked residence, and I don't have to talk about it. So I'm invoking I will answer every question. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right. Just because I invoke that Fifth Amendment right, when you say some things that are false, doesn't mean that it's true.
And again, was your relationship with Mrs. George physical in the past?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And did you admit to the police officers that day that you saw that she was bleeding from her head?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And if it is true that you were drinking that day, and there is documentary evidence, possibly maybe from a private investigator, that you were out and about drinking, you possessed a firearm while being intoxicated. Is that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
Where do you keep that handgun, sir?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
You keep it unlocked in your home, isn't that correct?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
It is not secure, correct?
Did you say safe or home? Unlocked in
Home.
a safe? Okay. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
And this is the same home that you're professing to bring your toddling two-year-old home, child home. Is that correct?
My gun is kept, to clarify, my gun is kept in a safe.
Well, you just invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege just earlier when I asked you that question, if it was kept secure, and you invoked your Fifth Amendment privilege. Why are you changing your testimony now, sir?
Because just because I don't answer doesn't mean what you're saying is true. When you lead it into another falsity, I feel compelled to correct that. My guns are kept in a safe. Just because I don't answer the question doesn't mean that it is or isn't. Her testimony is public knowledge, and some of it was omitted.
Some of what?
It's fine.
How long were you held, sir?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
In fact, you received while you were incarcerated and being processed on these charges from the 30th of May, you received some communications from my client, Ms. Jennifer Winters, didn't you?
I didn't communicate with Ms. Winters.
Did you receive a communication from her?
I don't know, possibly.
Well, in fact, you texted her back and told her you had lost your phone. And that was if you would, excuse me, liar, pants on fire. You were in custody is why you didn't respond back, wasn't it?
Yes.
You lied to her about losing your phone.
Well, I lost my phone. I didn't have possession of my phone. I lost it.
Well, there's a difference between losing your phone and not being in possession of your phone, sir. So I can show you the text message. Sorry, I lost my phone. And that was a lie, wasn't it?
I didn't have possession of my
So
phone.
you didn't have possession of your phone. If this was such an egregious violation of your civil liberties, knowing that this happened on Thursday, last Thursday, why would you not have said, sorry, my crazy girlfriend had me arrested?
Because
I was under arrest. Before you find out about it, I want to be the one that comes clean and tells you about it.
Because anyone that knows the full details says you were in your house and she broke in and you protected it and you're gonna.
I'm not worried
be
about
fine.
what anyone else or who are these everyone else's that you're talking about first?
The legal advisors that I've consulted. I was in my locked
Advisors?
residence.
Well, who are
and
the advisors that you've consulted? You gave me one name,
I plead the fifth, or I invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
talking with lawyers.
Is it attorney-client privilege that he's seeking to invoke?
What? And again, his testimony is the legal advisors that I discussed all said this was what was going on. So I just simply asked who they were. He had given me the name of the attorney that he had retained to represent him in the criminal matter, and certainly it's a matter of public record.
The identity of a person from whom he obtained legal advice is not something that would incriminate him in any way, so therefore it is not subject to his invoking the Fifth Amendment or attorney-client privilege. As to the identity. As to what the discussions were, yes, that would be attorney-client privilege if in fact this person was a legal advisor or attorney. So the name is admissible, and you will answer that question.
It's Ben Bollinger.
You have multiple times said the legal advisors I have consulted with, plural. So that's a misstatement on your part. You've talked to one attorney who you've hired to represent you, correct?
Yes.
No, all these other legal advisors that you've talked to have said that I was well within my rights to do, and this isn't a crime. That was just made up malarkey, wasn't it?
No, it's not made up malarkey. It's castle doctrine and stand your ground in the state of Florida.
Okay,
It's of the law.
You said you talked to legal advisors. What, did you just Google it or?
I did everything. Yes, I Googled it from legal websites to see your rights for castle doctrine.
Okay, so you're getting your legal advice, and again, not Mr. Bollinger, certainly not disparaging him, but you're getting these legal advisors are social media and or Google searches.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to tell me on May 30th what you started, what time did you get up out of bed?
I believe this is regarding the case. I'd like to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What time did you get out of bed on May 30th?
I don't believe that's a question that is subject to incriminating you about what time you got out of bed, so I'm going to instruct you to answer the question.
Or, Your Honor, I would just ask you to take an inference, he's invoked it, take an inference that it's criminal.
This is a civil case, and I take an inference every time he invokes the Fifth Amendment that the potential answer is potentially incriminating him in criminal conduct. That's what invoking the Fifth Amendment is not a shield in a civil case. It carries with it the inference that you answering that question would lead you to be involved in criminal, or you would be giving evidence against yourself of criminal activity. So when you answer the question, what time did you get up on the 30th? I invoke my Fifth Amendment right. There's something about the 30th of you getting up that infers to me that there is something illegal about that. So you have every right to do it, but understand, I have to make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses. I have to make decisions based on the background and character of witnesses. You are a decorated, in my opinion, hero of our military service, and I credit that as well. But I also am not blind to the fact that there are credibility issues when anyone invokes the Fifth Amendment over something as innocuous as what time did you get out of bed. I understand you may not understand the logistics of it, but the things that happened that led to this arrest, those are the things that you have the right to invoke and should invoke the right to not incriminate yourself when you have that pending felony case. What time you got out of bed that morning doesn't seem to me to be that way, but
Yes, sir. I got out of
if you need to take a moment to speak with your lawyer about this invoking the Fifth Amendment, I will step off the bench and give you 5 minutes to talk to your lawyer. We'll take a 5-minute recess. All right, Ms. Roberts, you may resume your questioning.
All right, sir, my question is what time did you get up on Thursday, May 30?
I don't remember. It was in the morning.
Were you alone? Did you sleep alone that night?
I believe I did.
No.
I'm not 100% sure. It would have been Renee, but I'm pretty sure, I really don't know. If anybody, it would have been Renee.
Because y'all had continued to be, although maybe not have been exclusively dated, you continued to have relations.
We had just started talking 4 days prior. We had dated for 2 years. She had spent the night at my house. I had spent the night at her house in the 4 days,
But on the 30th.
but not every night.
Didn't ask that. On the 30th, it could very well have been that she had been with you on that, woke up that morning at your house.
That's a true statement.
Because y'all did spend some time together that day.
I believe it was a work day. She worked, she went to work if
She
she,
went to work, but then she came back over to the house.
yes.
And then that's when, and again, an argument ensued. Not saying whose fault it is, whether there was any criminality, whatever, but you and she got into it.
We went out and listened to music.
I'm sorry, you went out.
We went out and listened to music. We were not in my house when we did get into an argument. We went out, listened to music. She drove back. We got in an argument in the
Did you
car.
ride with her there?
In my car, she drove.
Because you were drinking, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. And so trying to be safe, you had imbibed a little bit, and so she was operating your car.
Yes.
So
I
not to
had
be-
about 2 beers. She didn't have much.
Not to be afoul of the law, you let her drive so that you wouldn't be driving while impaired.
Sure.
Okay. And y'all came back to the house, and that's when it
We
escalated.
decided in the car, before leaving the driveway, her car was there. She had left her stuff for the night, that she didn't need to, because we were arguing. I'm just going to go back to my house. I said, that's a good idea. We both agreed. I went into my house, locked my door. She got into her car. Approximate whatever later, not long, she's beating on the door. She opens the door. She grabbed me. I have fingernail marks on my forearm right now.
Okay, well, let's see it. Have photographs so I can maybe see it.
I'm sorry, repeat that. You want to make a photograph of his arm?
So I can make it. He says he has
All right.
fingernail marks on his arm, and I just want to secure the record.
That's fine.
Where are you indicating that they're fingernail marks? I want to make sure there's not a glare. Okay, I'm going to show the photograph that I just took with my iPhone and ask you where you see fingernail marks on there. Okay, there's a scratch that is approximately, flip your arm back up. Okay, so you're saying there's 2 marks here, one that has a slight scab on it, and if we could, I just want you to show what I'm doing. I'm enlarging it and gonna take another screenshot. So we narrowed down the area. So you're saying this mark and then this red mark right here are where she grabbed your arm. And did she grab it, again, showing the slant of it, she would have grabbed it from the outside coming in? Okay. And she did that when she was coming back into the house?
No, we were inside of the house. She unlocked the door, came inside the house, said, we need to talk, and grabbed me, grabbed my fingernail marks.
And that's when you pulled the gun?
No, of course not.
What
I
did
didn't
you
have a
do?
gun on me. I pushed her off of me. She fell over. That's the worst of all this, yeah.
So that's when she hit her head and started bleeding?
I have cleats on my cabinets that boat cleats as pulls. They're yes, you wouldn't want to fall.
So where's the cabinet What cabinets?
It's right on the inside of my door. It opens up into my kitchen. My door opens up into my kitchen.
The door was going into the kitchen, because you have more than one door coming in.
It's the front door, the main front door opens right up into the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay.
So she came in,
Grabbed me, said,
Grabbed
we
your
need to
arm.
talk. I pushed her away.
and she hit her head on cleats.
She did.
On the door, and became.
She
bloody.
fell down at the time, is all I knew, and she got up, okay, and then she's coming at me, she's mad. I get her in a headlock, and it's, as it says in the testimony, did not choke her. I immediately released her, because you can hurt somebody with that.
Because you're a trained military.
I am, and you can, and it says that he did not choke me. I immediately released because she stopped. I mean, that is a very serious thing that can happen. So I restrained her from fighting me, and then she came at me again, and I did. I struck her on the top of the head 2 times. And
Okay,
she,
and again, I just want to make sure that again, this is being videotaped, so we can do it. But
understand.
you had, your hand was kind of partially closed, not a tight fist, but still fist, and you said you hit her on top of the head.
yeah, like that.
With a, okay.
Yeah, on top, not in the face, in the head, upper head. Just stop. She's attacking me in my house, unauthorized, okay? At that point, she stopped. She says, it started with, I'm leaving, I'm not spending the night, to she had left an overnight bag before we went out. She said, I'm getting my stuff and I'm never coming back. I said, okay, great. I sat there in the kitchen. She went throughout the house, the bedroom primarily where stuff is, removed her stuff, left the house. I locked the door. About 5 minutes later, I hear the keypad being pushed. Beep, beep, beep. I ran into my bedroom, got open the safe. It's unlocked. I leave it unlocked so I can get into it. It would be locked if there were anybody else in the house, but I'll leave it unlocked. Grabbed my gun, ran to the front door, because there's no reason for her to be coming back. We just had a physical altercation. She's got her stuff. She left. Why in the world is she coming back unless she wants another physical altercation or she's got a gun to hurt me? I'm in my own house. I grabbed the gun, went to the door, and she's standing inside of the house.
Well,
And then she left. And I locked the door.
and you put a gun to her face.
No, I did not. I had a gun on me and I said, I've got a gun, get out of the house. Her eyes got like saucers, and she left.
So you didn't ever point it at her?
No,
Sure.
I did not point it at her.
Then let me ask you this, okay? I was going through, you understand, I was asking you questions from the affidavit of complaint from Bay County Sheriff's Office. And you repeatedly stated during my cross-examination of you that these were untrue statements. But now, almost virtually every statement that I ask you, you're now admitting is true. Contextually, why it happened, your explanation, but I ask you, sir, did you put her in a headlock? And your statement was, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment privilege, and just because you're asking untrue statements doesn't make them true. That was a true statement. You placed this woman in a headlock.
You're narrowing on a specific part of that?
Oh,
I'm talking
narrowing
about,
all of it.
well, did you say, when you said, you said, did you put her in a headlock? Your own words right now. Did you put her in a headlock? And then you move to the next point. Does it not say he did not choke her? That's an important part of that. It says it right there in the
Well, so
narrative.
you were the one saying it was untrue just a scant few minutes ago.
That's
And
what
now
I'm
you're
saying.
saying it's true.
I'm saying you left off the part, it says he did not choke her.
Sir, all I ask you is, did you put her in a headlock?
And I invoked my amendment, and then you move to the next
And
part.
then you said, just because you're making,
Yes,
those
ma'am.
are untrue statements, and they are not untrue, are they?
Well, there's certain things, but that's fine.
You know, I asked you if you admitted to the officer if you saw that she was bleeding. And again, we can go back and get the transcript, and your response was, I invoke my Fifth Amendment, but just because it's in there doesn't mean it's true. But you did know she was bleeding, correct?
I knew when she sent me a picture, but it says it in there, so I probably said that.
So this woman communicated with you after she left,
Yes.
and sent you a picture of what that she had been in.
Yep. And she sent me a picture, and I said, I said the door was locked. Why did you enter? And she said, no person should go through this. I said, you were right. Why did you enter a locked door? That's the text messages that I have.
Okay, and again, I want you to be sure, because again, you're under oath.
Right,
in an
it's gonna get
active
used in the
hearing.
court,
No,
yes.
just a minute. You're under oath testifying, and your truthful statement, and you are saying it is 100% true, that your text to her after she said that was, why did you come into a locked door?
It said the door was locked, or something of that nature. My text to her 2 times was the door was
But
locked.
she had been there the night before and spent the night, left belongings there,
I'm not 100% sure on
or
that.
she had brought belongings over after work.
She bought belongings that day, yes,
Okay.
to spend the night.
And then you got arrested,
I did.
and the mother of your child, Miss Anna Claire, y'all had arranged, she communicates with you, and you are able to video chat with Anna Claire almost every day, don't you?
Yes. After she was a year and a half old, yes.
After she was able to participate.
She doesn't participate now. I get to see her, but
Okay.
I was isolated for a year and a half.
Okay, and so, and that would have been on Thursday, this has all happened on Thursday. And you got a video call on Thursday, May 30th at 5:53, didn't you? And you text back and you were taking a bunch of kernels out fishing?
I did, yeah.
Okay, in whose boat?
My boat.
And who were these kernels from Tennessee?
Just people that I'd work with.
People that you work with?
I used to work with.
You used to work with. Had they communicated with you and arranged for you to captain them on your boat?
It was a split cost trip. And
It was a
yes,
what?
A split cost. It's different. Yes. For all intents and purposes, what you said, yes.
A split, what did you call it? I'm sorry.
A split cost where people chip in gas money for bait.
Split call. So you are using your captain's license to captain people?
That's why I tried to clarify. If you're using it, that implies for profit. There was no profit.
No, I'm not
made.
talking about profit.
Okay.
I just asked you, I didn't ask anything about profit. You're the one that kept trying to narrow down and to make your statement true, sir. I asked you earlier, were you captaining ships and carrying people out on charter?
Captain implies it's a charter. Charter implies legal definitions that you're doing it for hire.
Okay, which legal, is that Google definition? Is that those?
It's maritime.
Is that those, what did you call them? The number of legal scholars that I did? Is that what their definition of it is?
I didn't say that.
Well, amazingly, you know what? I have a maritime proctor. It's a specialty in the law that lawyers have to have certain specialties to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of the specialties is a maritime, and I have it.
Good.
And so it's your testimony here under oath
Sure.
that a charter, you using your captain, that the maritime definition of a charter is for profit. Is that your testimony, sir?
Yeah, if you're
You're
running,
saying a maritime definition of a charter
That's
is
what-
for
he's
profit?
captaining
or
a charter.
captain is for?
Captaining a charter. It's only for profit.
look, we're getting really tangled up here. I just want to be real clear on what I mean. If someone says, are you running charters? Are you a charter captain? That implies you are doing it for hire, okay? With patrons that expect you to hold the appropriate maritime credentials to take them fishing for profit, about $150 and whatever. This was not a charter. This was a friend's trip, also known as a split cost trip. I just wanted to clarify that. They chipped in gas money and bait. We spend about $260, $280 on gas and $100 in bait. They all chip in $100 is 4 people. They paid the cost. I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't mean to get us in this big maritime
Discussion.
discussion. It's not relevant, really. So
Well,
I took,
sir, one thing that is relevant, that again, you want to define what's relevant and what's not relevant in this
Sorry,
proceedings.
you're right.
One of the things that the court has to determine is your ability to earn. You're a 46-year-old man that's not working. You understand that?
yes,
Now, you've served your country, you have a retirement, but you're 46 and have the ability to work. And 3 of the ways that you have an ability to work that I questioned you about earlier, flight,
with approved flight physical potential.
you could teach flying, you could lead scuba expeditions or teach scuba, or you could be a boat captain and take charters out and make money. Not how much it was, just you have the ability to do those.
The certificate, he emailed me yesterday, my certificate is en route. So for all intents and purposes, in the future, I will be able to charter a boat. I cannot charter a boat as of right now. I don't have credentials in hand.
You just
But
use
I
your
will
own
be
boat.
able to.
You just use your own boat.
I take people out fishing for split cost. I don't run charters. That's why I wanted to clarify that.
And people you work with and other people, tourists?
Your people from Dixon,
Who'd you take from Dixon?
well, they're coming in a couple weeks if I don't have Anna Claire.
Who are they?
Terry and Sunita Baker.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do they live over, they've got a house down there?
I think they just moved, yeah.
Now, so back to, we kind of went far afield, but she called you, you had the call, and you actually took a FaceTime call with Anna Claire while you were out on the boat with these colonels from Tennessee.
Yeah, that's right.
And you would agree that you were drinking,
No, I wasn't. We had just left. We were out of my dock.
you didn't have a beer in your hand while the call
No.
was going on?
No, of course not. I'm texting my daughter anyway. Even if I was drinking,
You
I
weren't
wouldn't have a beer.
texting, you had a FaceTime call with her.
Ma'am, even if I was drinking, I wouldn't have put a beer in there, but I was not drinking. She called early in the morning. When I go offshore, there's a very brief window that we lose all cell service. You got about a 30-minute window to catch me. That's right after we leave the dock. I'm not drinking when I leave the dock. When I
And
do
what
go,
day did you take, what day did you take her
ma'am,
out?
I don't know.
Would it,
Within a week?
would that have
I
been
really don't
the
know.
25th, only lasted
Ma'am,
about
I
a minute
don't
and
have a-
14 seconds?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you've got the call log of your video chats, don't you?
Yes, I could find out.
Okay, well, I've got it too.
Okay.
She called you on the 24th at 9:46 a.m. and you missed it. She called you at 5:28 on May 25th and you had a minute and 14 second call. Would that have been when you were going out?
Probably. Yeah, I'm on a boat with people. I
But
don't
that's
know.
5:20, that would have been 5:28 in the afternoon. You were going out, you said early in the morning.
Right.
So she called you on the 26th at 9:38 a.m. and the call lasted 7 minutes and 34 seconds.
I don't end our calls. She ends our calls,
May
99%. She says we got to go.
On May
Bye.
27th, you called there was
I
a
didn't
call
call.
at 10:28 that lasted 13 minutes and 9 seconds. On Thursday, the 30th, at 5:53 p.m., she called and it was missed, and you didn't talk to your daughter on that day that this arrest happened, did you?
I did not talk while I was in jail.
Okay. Well,
I did not have my phone, it was lost.
You weren't in jail at 5:53 p.m. You and your girlfriend or your ex-girlfriend had not even gone out to listen to music yet at 5:53 because you just gotten off work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, music started.
On Friday, at 10:07, she called you and you didn't call back. You missed the call and you didn't call back, did you? Were you in jail? You got arrested
I got
on
arrested
Thursday
on
night.
Thursday.
What time did you bond out?
I got out of jail Saturday night, late Saturday night,
So you stayed Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. So you would have been in jail.
48 hours.
You had been in jail for, at 10:07 on Friday, and you had been in jail on Saturday at 9:20 a.m. when she tried to call to let you FaceTime your daughter. Correct?
That sounds right.
And then she called on Sunday at 9:46. Is that right? And that's when, and at 10:13, you text back and said, "Lost my phone. I'm back up now. I'm sorry."
That sounds right.
That was you. Is that correct?
That sounds right.
You said that is true?
It sounds correct.
If I could. Pass that to you.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, in fact, had not lost your phone. You were incarcerated. I'd move that into the next exhibit. You had not lost your phone.
What is this, 3?
Yes, ma'am. I lost my phone. I didn't have it.
Hold on just a second, Ms. Waller.
Yes, I would like to I will print that and make it as a late filed exhibit with the court's
All
permission.
right, so Exhibit 3 would be late filed photos of his
Photos of
arm.
his forearm. His right forearm, correct?
And this would be Exhibit 4.
And so you lied to her. You in fact not lost your phone. You just didn't have it in your possession because you were in custody.
It's a word. I lost my phone, meaning I didn't have possession of it.
Okay.
That's what the intent was.
And that was on Sunday, June 2nd. And then on that you communicated and you had a video call with her that day?
I believe so.
And did you tell her, hey, before you find out, girlfriend went crazy, tried to break in my house, and I got arrested? You never told Jenny that, did you?
It's none of her business. I don't know anything.
Well, I mean, we're here for a custody hearing, that you yourself have professed that you waited for so long and people have tried to keep this out of court, and you didn't think it was important to tell the mother of your child, look, before this gets blown out of proportion, let me tell you what's going on.
We don't talk. Me and Jenny don't talk. She calls if I ask anything. She says, send a text.
But did you not say, hey, this is serious, I need to let you know what's going on? I'm going to
No.
ensure you that this crazy woman who's making up these charges, you're not going to be around our child.
Well, there's a stop talk agreement. I mean, yeah, this is a non-issue.
Okay, and you didn't tell her, you didn't text her? I mean, I got a whole notebook over here.
And ma'am, I mean, can we put this into context? I have not even been able to see my child without Jenny, outside of Jenny's house without her supervision. This is not irrelevant for her until after this custody case. That's highly confident. I had a person enter my locked door of my house and assault me. I defended myself. It's going to get expunged. It's going to get negated. It's serious allegations, but you can't break into somebody's house and use their key and attack them. You can't do that.
But again, this is.
I've never
I know-
been
I know,
arrested.
but it's silly for me to ask. I probably shouldn't have disclosed what I knew in opening arguments, but you weren't going to tell the court.
I was not.
You weren't going to tell the court this was going on when we came in. You had no intention, did you?
I did not have any intentions. You were innocent until proven guilty, and I believe the courts will find me innocent without a shadow of a doubt.
But
It's in my house and the door's locked, ma'am.
I know,
You can't
Mr.
break into somebody's
Mr.
house.
Mr. Wiley, if everything you said is true, everything you said, take it for true. A woman who you've had a long-term relationship with, who you were trying to possibly rekindle the relationship, violated the sanctity of the home where you're expecting to have this child. And you were going to hide that fact from this court.
Ma'am, I believe in what y'all are stating, and I believe the fair rules of the court and reasonable assumption is that you don't bring a child around women. That's what you're petitioning for, right? No issues with that. Along those lines, I've been to Jenny's house. There apparently, on a reasonable doubt, men going to and from her house. That's why I don't like going in her house. It's got Netflix accounts of boys she crushed on Chip, all this stuff, beers. Unless women wear Old Spice cologne, you got that stuff in the bathroom. What man is around my house? I don't want to be in her house, period. That's her business. But rest assured, if I have custody of my daughter, there's no women coming around.
Well, on that note, what you propose, you have filed a parenting plan when you filed your petition, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you read it, and you signed it under oath under penalty of perjury, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you recall what you put in that petition?
No, ma'am. I'm going to be honest. I'm remote, and most of my stuff is done over the phone. So when Miss Burdine says we're doing this, I agree, and we type it up, and then I come in person and sign it. I don't go through with a microscope.
Asked for, initially, when you filed your petition, you asked for 50/50 residential time, and you asked the court to designate you and the mother of your child as joint primary residential parents. You did not request for you to be designated as the primary residential parent. You recall that? Did you know,
Sure.
did you even know that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that sounds right.
And again, I apologize, I got too much paper out here, and I had the documents here to show to you, and I'll find them in just a second. But then, just when we were coming to court for the final hearing the last time, were you aware that you filed a supplemental?
I'm not sure.
Oh, in that proposed parenting plan, provided us a copy of?
No, ma'am.
Well, interesting enough, you put in there. Document, you reviewed it, you signed it.
It sounds right. Ms. Roberts, I know we're in the middle of this thing. Look, I just want to be a part of my daughter's life that I've been shut out of. That's what I want.
Well, sir, I don't hear from you. Don't dispute that.
Okay,
But on your direct examination by your attorney, she questioned you about being the primary residence parent. And the legal documents, your Exhibit A, Ms. Birdi, your Exhibit A, and then your secondary proposed parenting plan. If I could pass these to him, I don't have extra copies, Judge, if I could pass and then come up and question him about those.
I agree to whatever I sign. I mean, I don't know what you're saying, Ms. Roberts.
Okay. This document,
Yeah,
which it has an Exhibit A label on it, was
Sure.
attached to your petition that you filed.
okay,
And it's designated, you have a check mark, joint primary residential parents, only if by agreement.
okay,
And then you've got 182.5 days each. That was what you initially filed.
okay. Yes, so split custody is if we can split everything. Right? That's,
That's what, I'm just asking, this is what you filed with the court for
Sure.
your request.
well, that was the intent. So if that sounds right, that's what hey, two parents.
And
love
that's
it.
your signature,
Sure,
right?
yes, ma'am.
Then your attorney on your behalf filed this second document that is entitled Permanent Parenting Plan, Fathers Proposed. And if you would, could you read down here, the primary residential parent should be, what's check?
Mother.
So on your direct examination question, when you changed it and said that you wanted to be designated, you never filed a request with this court.
Right. I did it verbally because I'm continuing to be withheld, my
We'll
daughter. That's what
move
it's
those
got.
in as the next.
That's why I got mentioned.
Now, on this tri-care issue you're talking about.
On the what issue, ma'am?
Well, again, on direct examination, your attorney asked you about health insurance. And you went through a whole soliloquy of, I've tried and I've been denied because my name's not on the birth certificate. Your attorney and you received the DNA test, just like me and my client did.
Yes, ma'am.
You're the petitioner in this court. The DNA test that your attorney filed with this court found that you were the biological father
Yes, ma'am.
to a 99.99 degree of certainty, correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
At what point in time did you move forward, or your counsel move forward, to send that to TRICARE and say, hey, I've been established as the dad?
I called them and they said, you need to go to the Social Security office. I tried to get a Social Security card. I filed through the state of Tennessee to get a birth certificate.
Where is that document? Because I requested that through discovery, but anything that you did in this case.
It's in the state of Tennessee files that I requested. They sent me a birth certificate. I brought it to the Social Security office. They said, you're not on the birth certificate. You have to get on before you can get a Social Security. I need a birth certificate, Social Security card to go to TRICARE to get her added to the insurance. I contacted Jenny and said, hey, can I get on the birth certificate so I can get health
So why
insurance?
didn't you or your attorney just apply, were you aware?
Ma'am, I'm
that
not
all you
a
have to
lawyer.
do is the court could have established and we could have submitted an agreed order to paternity? Why was that Jenny's responsibility and not yours?
It wasn't, I was running around. I don't know all the rules and regulations of the legal process.
But nobody precluded you from doing that, and you've had legal representation the whole time through this procedure, correct?
I tried to do it on my own accord, ma'am.
Okay.
I asked Jenny if she would help me get my name on the birth certificate. She said, we'll do it through the courts. Why? At the end of the day, I have great benefits, retiree benefits for our daughter that can't be utilized because we can't just get a simple thing done. You're frustrated with me. I'm frustrated with the courts. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm
But it
sorry.
is a true assumption we can make, a true statement is that you depended on you. You said you designated that she should be primary residence. And then you go forward with that, and that it's Jenny's responsibility to ensure that the child has your insurance, because it was her responsibility to go and to do that for you.
Ma'am,
Is that right?
no. All I need is my name on the birth certificate. I will handle everything. I will get Anna Claire up to speed on all the military, life insurance benefit. I'll do all the work. I just
Why
need
didn't
to,
you go do it? Why didn't you, with an open case, why didn't you just go get the birth certificate and take the DNA test? Go and get it done.
ma'am, I don't know how this works. This is a very convoluted process. I just asked her if she would be willing to get my name on the birth certificate, and she said, let's do it through courts. I mean, that's,
Did you not understand that you have to go through and fill it out and have the court order and do that? Was that not explained to you?
of course not. How do we, I mean, you don't know that from birth. I don't,
But it was best of her to do that.
to help me get my name on the birth certificate.
And you are a decorated
I thought, ma'am,
26-year-old.
yes, ma'am, and let me read, let's not forget, I've been trying to get,
One of you talk at a time, please. You let her ask the question,
Yes,
then
sir.
you answer it, and she needs to give you time to answer fully the question, and I'll make
Yes,
sure
sir.
she does. okay?
yes, sir, thank you.
This isn't your first foray as being a parent. You have 2 other adult children. Right?
This is my first foray with being a contested parent. When the children were born, my name was on their birth certificate. I am trying desperately to get, I am trying to get my name on our daughter's birth certificate through the courts.
That's going to be established today. No
Yes,
matter
sir.
what else happens.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be found to be the father of this child, and your name will be on the birth certificate, and you will be able to get all of those benefits. The point of this that we're wrestling with has been, why hasn't it happened up till now? You've explained your side of it, Ms. Roberts. I believe I've heard everything I need to hear on that particular point. It hasn't happened, and the case has been pending for now 2 years. So we need to fix that problem, and we will fix that problem when we're finished today at 4 o'clock.
Now, sir, if I could, and I've provided these previous. Your Honor, could I just approach and go through them with you?
Yes.
Again, I've said you were on the intercoastal waterway. Is the canal off the intercoastal waterway, or is it off the ocean?
It's neither.
Neither, it's just an independent canal, just independent body of water.
Yeah, the canal leads into Pretty Bayou, which leads into the bay, which leads into the ocean.
Okay.
And the intercoastal canal.
And then, so it all is together, whether you're not directly on the ocean,
No, ma'am.
and you're not directly on the intercoastal waterway.
Correct.
You're on a canal off of both.
Off the bay.
Okay. Now, and this is, what is that, sir? I'm sorry, that desk slides when I drop it down.
That's okay.
Is that the back of your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that a kind of portico or a patio on the back?
It's a patio.
Patio that goes straight down to the water
Yes, ma'am.
with a significant drop from the land to the water. I mean, and again.
It's tidal. It can be level, it can be in the yard, it can be.
And so that, again, the canal's not an independent body of water. It's either in some way connected both to the intercoastal waterway and to the bay, so it's a tidal body of water, so it goes up and down.
Yes.
And just on the date that this picture was down, there's, what, probably a couple foot drop,
Yeah, it's low tide. low
and it
tide.
could be all the way up to the top.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's nothing, no impediments from the back door of your home all the way down to this, is there?
There is currently no impediments, correct?
General, we'll move that up. It's the exterior of your home. Right.
It is, yeah.
Closer up picture of the garage.
It is.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Another picture of the rear of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a boat lift.
I do not.
And so that boat lift that's in the back, in your backyard, in the back of your property, is just not yours, is that right?
It's across the canal.
Oh, this is on the other side?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's just a little distortion. So yours just comes down and goes straight in. And do you have a dock coming off of your?
No, I don't. I have a seawall.
I'm gonna move these in as the next exhibit. How much, when you said you quit drinking last Thursday,
Yes, ma'am.
you were a daily drinker up and until that day, weren't you?
That's not true at all. I don't drink daily. I'm a weekend drinker when I drink. I do not, absolutely do not, nor have I ever drank daily.
What day did you take these kernels from Tennessee?
Okay.
What day did you?
I have drank midweek. In fact, it was a Thursday, the night I was arrested. I mean, so it's not expressly prohibited, but I don't drink daily. That's 100%.
Well, you had gone out to listen to music on Thursday, the 30th of May, with your possibly rekindling girlfriend, to the point of where you wanted her to drive home so you would be safe and not. So
Right, to
again,
take a risk.
I'm
I
not
had
just,
2
you're not
beers.
just a weekend drinker, that's a Thursday drinker. And then what day did you carry these kernels from Tennessee out?
I don't, the weekend?
It was a weekend?
Yes, most people fish on the weekend when they're off.
Well, and a lot of people take vacation there all week and they do it during the
That
week
is
too,
true.
don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, again, you're a post on social media, aren't you?
I do post on social media, sure.
And there's a lot of times during the week that you're posting and, where you're out drinking.
I don't know that to be true at all. I mean, we got social media, and that's easy to refute. But I disagree with that statement.
Beg pardon, I'm not here.
I disagree with that statement. I'm posting midweek all the time, drinking and stuff. That's absolutely not true.
Well, I mean, there are periods of time that you're not drinking.
It's not, but it's not a trend. I mean, you're giving an impression that that's something I do midweek, drink, post, all this. I mean, you can go on, you can go on social media. It's there for you. You're painting a false picture.
This home that we just shown some photographs of, you purchased in February of 2020,
Sounds right.
$225,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have a mortgage on it.
No, ma'am.
You don't have a mortgage on it?
I do not.
You just have a mortgage on the home so you were able to, in 2020, you had $250,000 to pay, buy this home outright, or did you satisfy the mortgage after you
No,
purchased it?
I purchased it with a mortgage.
And then, but you satisfied it over a
Yes.
period of 4 years, you paid off $225,000.
Yes, ma'am. When I was
I'm making 68, how much did you say?
when I was working,
How much were you making when you were working?
180,000.
Okay. And then you have a secondary home in Enterprise,
Yes, ma'am.
and how much is that mortgage?
It's no mortgage.
There is no mortgage?
Correct.
I probably misheard. Because,
I've been very disciplined. in
no,
my
I'm not,
service.
that's not my question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You had testified earlier that you had a mortgage on that home.
I did. I had one on the beach house.
But when did you pay those off?
Well, one was paid off a long time ago, the Alabama house. Mortgage
Well,
on more, pretty recently, post-retirement. And I've been retired 2 years.
well, but see, when Ms. Burdine was questioning you about your income and stuff,
I don't
you
make,
talked about you had a renter at
Correct.
the enterprise property because you had a mortgage, you know. I don't have, I've got a mortgage on it. And so you don't have a mortgage on that?
I don't have a mortgage on my enterprise house. I don't have a renter in my enterprise house. I haven't had one,
Well, then why did you say that you made $800 a month on your rental income?
because those aren't the only two houses.
What?
I have another house that's a rental.
Oh, you've got 3 houses that are rental.
Well,
I'm sorry, you have 3 homes, 2 that are rental.
one's vacant. It's not a rental. It needs a lot of work. I need to go to enterprise and work. But it's been vacant for a while.
Where's your other rental home?
It's down the road from my house.
In Enterprise?
No, in Panama City.
In Panama City, so you have another beach house.
Well, it's a shack, but I mean, if it rents for
And you rent-
$800,
And you rent that out?
yes, ma'am.
And who's your renter?
You ever go blank when you get asked the question? Kara,
And how much does Kara pay?
$800.
$800.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's a mortgage on it.
No,
So you have 3 houses, all paid for.
correct.
Then why did you mention a mortgage?
Because I had a mortgage.
We're talking about what do you have, not what did you have, not what you have,
I don't know
what you
that I
have.
mentioned a mortgage.
How
Unless it
long
was
has
in-
the shack not had a mortgage?
A while, around Hurricane Michael.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not a Floridian.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not a
Probably
coastal
4
dweller,
years
so I
ago.
don't know.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So you can't offer an explanation on why you talked about that you make $800, you make about $800 because of why you mentioned there was a mortgage, because you don't have on anything. Again, some of these social media posts and things that you make, you went through a whole list of things about how Miss Winters is alienating you from your daughter, and your daughter Ashley, she responded to one of those, didn't she?
She did, a year
Okay.
ago.
And you knew that in that she accused you of some egregious things, didn't she?
Yes, on her page.
Keeping away from the mother.
So
You
I
would be- You were
posted,
physically abusive, that you were an alcoholic, and would go into alcoholic rampages.
I don't know about all that. But she said some pretty horrific stuff.
Well, I
Here to
mean,
me is hearsay.
well, Your Honor, again, what I'm asking is, did he know about it? I mean, she's here, and I'm going to ask her the questions of what he know about it. The point being is that in direct examination, he was talking about that, you know, kind of left it to the thing that he was shocked that his daughter was here to testify. But again, I'm just offering that he was aware of a social media post in response to his, that his daughter had made concerning his parenting, but that's all. The specific things that were made, you can strike, but you were aware by the post.
I was aware that she was triggered whenever I came all the way here for a custody hearing and we got a DNA test. I went back and I said, I don't need a bunch of likes or a bunch of attention. I just vented that keeping a child from a parent is not cool or something of that nature. I hadn't talked to Ashley much except for I love you, and she would reply F you for about 8 years. And then all of a sudden, she starts posting really bad, nasty comments all over the internet.
And again, you were aware there, we sent you some discovery to answer. And you answered it. And then were you aware that your attorney sent discovery back?
I believe I said, can we ask the same questions that they're asking us?
Well, and again, you've indicated that you've tried to keep this all congenial and tried to work with her. Were you aware that your attorney sent interrogatories back that said, you know, and again, whether or not it was meant to be tongue-in-cheek, sent them to my client and told her to keep it simple, stupid, in answering the interrogatories.
Who,
Yeah,
I wasn't aware.
Your Honor, again, I filed them.
so well, first of all, let me find out, in what context was the keep it simple, stupid?
Your Honor, we received discovery from Ms. Burdine.
I'm going to give Ms. Burdine a chance to speak. I just want to find out for sure.
And unlike normal interrogatories, and again, she came to court and said that she had an attorney by the name of Duncan Cave had prepared
I
interrogatories on
think
her
he
behalf.
actually appeared in court for Ms. Burdine on one occasion, maybe, I don't know.
And
All right,
that's probably the head injury. There you go. He was at Vanderbilt. But at any rate, unlike normal interrogatories where you have the rule cited, their office sent me a document with a title page warning. This document is subject to be filed in a court of law under penalty of perjury as to include a fine, jail sentence, or both. The completion of this document can expedite your case. Instructions. Use complete sentences or the same shall be disregarded. 2, be as short, detailed, and to the point as possible for each question. 3, any other supplemental materials not specifically provided shall be disregarded. 4, any flow overriding into the margins or another request on the back side of a page or on another page shall be disregarded. Any unlegible handwriting shall be disregarded. Tips. If you have difficulty formulating a full and detailed answer, underlined only in the space provided, try to picture yourself from the outside looking in at your situation. And remember this phrase, KISS, K-I-S-S, underlined. Keep it simple, stupid. Think of yourself as speaking in a boring and monotone fashion. Your answers to these questions should place you in context where a lawyer can put you on the stand under oath, and you can simply read off the document as your testimony for each and every question asked. And then it goes with best interest of the child, and it relates all the way through. So again, Your Honor, I'm simply putting this into evidence because Mr. Wiley has stated he has spent countless amounts of money and copious amounts of time doing things. And again, I suspect that there's going to be an attorney's fee request at the end of this hearing by both of us. But again, it's simply to show that his profession, number one, that he's tried to work this out congenially, and number two, that we had to receive these things in an unprofessional manner, and we had to respond to them.
I don't think that any of this is relevant to the issues that are before the court. I understand your point, but the fact of the matter is that the relevance is defined as whether or not that piece of evidence makes something more or less true, or more true or less true. And obviously, it sounds to me anyway like that was something that they would have sent their clients out of their firm rather than to send the adverse party, and perhaps that's the problem. But in any event, the individual who sent that is no longer with Ms. Burdine. I will let you file it as an exhibit in this
That's all I
court.
want to do.
But I am not going to consider it for anything as far as the issue of custody and visitation with this minor child,
No.
which should be the things that we're talking about. So. Let's take a recess. Let me see counsel in chambers.
All rise. What is the recess?
I just have a few follow-up questions. questions. You understand that part of the court, once the court determines residential schedule, that there is, and your income has to be used to calculate child support.
Yes, ma'am.
And I ask you in my discovery to provide certain information.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, I've gone over ad nauseum this issue of a mortgage, and you provided an affidavit of income and expenses that was attached to your filing, and you signed it on November 29th of 2023.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that point in time, you professed to have a mortgage of $1,506. What did you pay $1,506? What house did you pay that for?
Yes, ma'am. I will look at my records where I got that. It can quantify with expenses with the house. So whether
No,
it's mortgage or,
I don't want you to look at your records, I want you to answer it right now.
sure.
What mortgage was $1,506 on November 29th of 2023?
Right. It was in the wrong column if it's mortgage, but it's an expense.
Your Honor,
It's a
could I
housing
approach?
expense.
You may.
Attorney typed this up.
Well, I gave her the information.
And it said, what does this say?
Yep.
Rent, mortgage, correct?
Yep.
And what money, what is right here? How much does that say?
1506.
$1,506.
It was probably equivalent mortgage expenses of owning a house.
Well, again, when I sent it to it, it goes,
Houses cost money. I mean, I can deduce that, but when you own a house, you also pay property taxes. It's an
well,
itemized
again,
prorated
what does it
amount.
say right here?
No, I know,
Homeowners
I know.
and
I'm not
renters?
saying it's that.
So this is just, again, when I
Yes,
don't mean
ma'am.
it, I don't mean it tongue in cheek, but
No,
Lyle,
no,
our
no.
pants on fire. You don't have a mortgage.
I will, if we come back, I do not have mortgages. That's correct.
And you've,
Um,
and I've asked you, again, the properties you have, and given you an opportunity to be truthful about that, sir, and you said, I've got 2 enterprise houses, that both of them are paid for.
I do not have 2 enterprise houses.
You have a house in Enterprise, and you have another one in Alabama somewhere?
I do not.
Okay, 1 in Enterprise, 2 in Panama City, a house that you live in a shack, you say, that you rent
Yes,
for
ma'am.
$800.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when did you sell the Destin property?
Still there.
So the answer to my question is, Ms. Roberts, I haven't sold the Destin property, correct?
Correct.
And you understand that I ask in discovery for you to provide me your tax returns.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, on your tax returns, you profess that you didn't say anything about Enterprise property or the Florida properties.
Right.
But you have 4,000 Gulf Terrace in Destin, Florida,
Yes, ma'am.
32404.
Yes, ma'am.
That you made in 2021, you received rents of $17,800.
Yes, ma'am.
And that property has no mortgage, correct?
Correct. You do realize, I just want to clarify that rentals are not rented, they're sitting right now. Minus
Let me
grant.
make sure I'm understanding. Do you own a house in Destin, Florida presently?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir.
So when we were talking about these houses earlier, that one was just never mentioned?
Yes, sir. It was mentioned in the document there.
Oh,
Well, I was questioning you on the witness stand, asking you what properties you have, and you conveniently left out another property that is paid for, that you have income coming in, because on direct examination, you talked about, I have retirement income of about $5,000 after taxes. Ms. Burdine, well, what's your gross? Well, you just add 20% to that, so let's just say it's $6,000.
Ma'am, I sent the pay stubs for that.
That's what you said, that was your testimony, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then she went on and asked you on direct examination, because you had mentioned something about rental. Said, do you have any rental income? And you said, yeah, about $800.
I do.
And that was your testimony under oath to tell this court that's what your income is for the purpose of paying child support. Isn't that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a bald-faced misstatement, lie, whatever it was, because you have other rental properties that you were getting.
They're unrented. I have a lot of vacant, a few, not a
So
lot.
it's your testimony right now,
Yes, ma'am.
under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
that
Mr. Wiley, pull
nobody-
the base of that microphone, pull that
Yes,
base
sir.
of that microphone toward you.
Yes,
There
sir.
you go.
So other than the shack in Panama City, you're getting $800.
I'm getting 800 on the shack. Yes, ma'am.
The Enterprise house is vacant,
Correct.
and you got a place in Destin.
Yes, ma'am.
And is it just vacant like today because they're out at the beach?
No,
Or
it
is
doesn't
it-
generate a profit. It's got a $500 HOA and it's needed repairs.
It doesn't, I didn't ask about generating a profit.
I know, but the
Is it
question earlier,
rented? You said, I said, is it rented? No, it's vacant.
ma'am,
Is it true? Because if it's not, and I find out somebody's living in it,
I understand.
I'm going to take this case to the grand jury of Dixon County and have you indicted for perjury. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand making a knowingly false statement in court without recanting before this case ends is aggravated perjury, which is a felony?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's your testimony
know
right
that.
now that your property at 4,000 Gulf Terrace, Destin, is vacant and is not rented. Is that true?
That is not true.
Why did you say it then?
Because if we go back in the questioning, it said, how much do you earn out of your property?
When
that
did
you-"
I say that? I
I'm not
just
sure
asked
that you
you a
did.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I ask you what I wrote down in discovery, what your response was? Or am I standing here asking you a direct question, sir?
You're asking me a question, I'm
Then
answering.
why can't you answer it truthfully?
I can, I just did. And when I was asked the question in person, when I answered up here, I was asked, how much do you make on rental properties, not including expenses? And I answered. That-
Actually, the question was, what is your income from rental properties? That doesn't necessarily entail whether you consider it to be a profit or loss. It's whether or not, if there's no mortgage, it's a question of how much do you make from it.
Yes, sir. The
How much are
state,
you renting the Destin property for?
I'm renting it for 18.
$1,800 a month.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a weekly rental or a monthly rental?
Long-term rental.
And who is your renter?
Nelia.
Elio?
Nelia.
How you spell that?
Nelio.
Is this just one person? Is this some person that just goes by one name?
No, he has a second name. I don't know his second name.
And how long has he rented this property?
About a year.
About a year. So he started renting. We are here in court today on June, say the 7th, I think. So he started renting that about June of last year.
Roughly, yes, ma'am.
And you've been making $1,800 a month.
No, ma'am. Again, the
You've been
HOA
being
is
paid-
$600 a
I
month.
inartfully
Just the HOA.
You have been being paid $1,800 a month,
Yes,
each month.
yes.
You paid you a security deposit?
I have one for
Well, how much?
1,800.
1,800. Where's that money located?
It's refundable.
Where's it
In
located?
a
They didn't ask if
bank,
it was
USAA bank account,
In what bank account?
a USAA bank account,
How much is in that USAA bank account?
$3,000.
So your income and expense statement, your mortgage is wrong. You didn't disclose about all.
It was
properties
correct
that
at the time,
you have,
ma'am.
Because again, you have other properties. You have vacant lots in Enterprise, and
Yeah, I
And
have
have-
land in Enterprise. Yes, ma'am.
where else do you have land?
That's it. Well, I have a land in Callaway, Florida. I say land, I have a lot in Callaway, Florida that costs me money. I don't think I'd use that as a deduction, as a monthly deduction.
Have you filed your 2023 tax? Just because I haven't been provided them.
I'm current on my taxes, whatever year that is.
For 2020, you would have filed your 2023 by 2024. And the result, and the
I've not.
reason I asked in the state of Tennessee,
yeah.
particularly our area, we had an extension because of inclement weather that we had. We didn't have to file ours until June 17th. And I know that because I hadn't filed mine yet.
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't have to file by April. But you filed yours.
Yes, I'm current on my taxes.
Okay. Did you bring those with you today?
I did not.
Did you bring a paycheck with you today?
I did not bring a paycheck with me.
Because again, when I asked for your income, gross income, $6,008. Is that your retirement income?
I believe so. Yes, sounds right.
And rental income, you have $800, which would be the shack rental income.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, nowhere in here do you have the Destin property. Now, whether you deduct the things out, I'm trying to understand.
I sent
why
my
you-
tax records, ma'am.
How can you get $1,800 in Destin, Florida, and not make money on $1,800 because you have expenses? We all have that.
Insurance
Yet you're making,
for-
your shack that you're renting, you're getting $800, and that's pure profit. You have no deductions on the shack. You don't pay
do.
property taxes, you don't have insurance, you don't have maintenance, you don't
do.
have upkeep, you don't have any of that. Is that correct?
I do have that.
Well, then,
Because that's what I filed on my taxes.
so you're lying on
what-
your taxes. So
No,
you, as
I'm
a
not.
decorated veteran of
No.
the United States who has
Ma'am,
faithfully
you're
served our
inferring
country,
that.
lie on your
One of you
taxes?
talk at a time, please.
No, when it all shakes out, that's what it equals for profit. How much am I making for profit?
So you are making profit on the Destin property.
I'm making profit on the golf, or that one, the shack.
But you said the rent was 800. And in your expenses, and your income is 800.
And it
So
didn't-
that would indicate you have no expenses. Then you tried to backtrack, sir, and says, oh, no, the 800 is what I'm making on all my rentals. Well, that makes absolutely zero. Then you try to profess and say, oh, no, that's just what I show on my income taxes. Do you not actually show what you make on your income taxes, sir?
I show what I make on my income taxes. I try to transcribe that to this document.
You sure about that?
Yes, I will definitely have it all explained.
Judge, I would ask for a late filed exhibit that his 2023 taxes be filed along with his 2022 taxes, because again, let me ask, when did you file your 2023s?
Well, hold on just a second. You're asking for a late filed exhibit. Why don't we just require that to be produced before we're going to resume this hearing when we break on the 26th day of June at 9 o'clock, because we are not going to finish today, obviously, and that income tax can be produced, that income tax returns will be produced. Today is the 7th. Have those taxes produced by the 21st day of June.
I will. I mean, she hadn't testified yet, and I would introduce those at my case in chief, but I'll provide those to her.
Let's just, so that we can try to streamline this procedure, both sides will produce their tax returns during the birth of this, during the life of this child,
22, 23, and 23.
21, 22, 23, 24.
But we wouldn't have filed
Child
in
was
24.
born in 21. it would be
Child was born in 22.
22, all right. So 22,
January
23,
2020.
24, tax returns will be supplied to opposing counsel for both parties by the 21st day of June.
Neither
That
would have
gives
filed their
you-
24 taxes,
Pardon?
Judge. Neither would have filed their 24 taxes. I'm sorry, it's late, and you've had a lot to do, and I apologize for being
That's all right.
obstinate. I just wanted to make sure that
So we're talking about 2 years,
22,
22 and 23.
yes, sir.
And all tax returns for those and attachments to be produced by the 21st day of June.
So again, just finishing up, you said this income and expense statement, you just transposed the numbers from your tax return to this document. Is that what your testimony was?
As best I could, yes.
Beg
There,
pardon?
yeah, I believe I transcribed it over. It's a different
And
document.
with this, because you filed it, you signed this in November of 2023, so you would not have completed your 2023 taxes.
Correct. It would have
So
been the
this is
previous year.
reflective of 2022.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, that sounds right.
So again, trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
That reflected-
Your Destin property was, you said was not rented. It's been about a year, so it wouldn't have been rented until 2023,
Right.
June of 2023, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I was questioning about you not disclosing it, but your testimony is this income and expense statement was in 2022, based on your 2022 taxes, and the shack was rented out for $800 in 2022.
I don't know.
It was.
I don't know. I don't know. I've got houses that come up available, not available. I'm trying to sell some houses. They're sitting, they need
Well,
repairs.
what other houses have you got that we haven't talked about?
Those,
Now, again, I promise this is lastly, and again, we're going back, and again.
Let's go
remember
through
your-
all of
Remember
them.
your Fifth Amendment privilege,
yes.
okay?
No, that's okay. Let's,
Remember your Fifth Amendment privilege, please, sir. Do you remember that?
yes.
Okay. When you got arrested in Bay County, Florida, even though you own multiple properties that are paid for, and you have a $6,000 income plus whatever rental income you have, you filed under oath an affidavit of indigency asking for an appointed counsel, didn't you?
I don't believe I did, but
Oh, you sure? Because I don't want to pull any punches,
ma'am,
I've got.
I don't know. If you say I did, I did. They said you make too much to get that, so
Because you filled it out asking for it.
why would you not ask for it? I don't know. I've never been arrested.
Well, again, there was a form that was given to you. I am seeking a court-appointed attorney. And there's a notice in here, and you have to fill out what you make. And you put in, I have take-home income of $5,000 monthly. And then it asks you have Social Security, unemployment benefits, things such as that. You know, you said you
I put my
got,
military retirement.
okay.
Just
But
to keep
then
it simple.
again, you go down and say, cash. This says, I have other assets. The first one is cash. You know what you checked?
I didn't. I remember the guys.
No, you checked no, sir. And you told me you got, what'd you say, $13,000 in cash in just one bank account?
No,
You got
it was.
multiple bank
I have
accounts.
$3,000 in that account.
$3,000 in one bank account. You have other bank accounts?
I do.
Okay, then why did you lie and say you didn't have any cash?
I'm not sure what. I know there was a point the guy asked me how much money I had. I told him, and he looked at me funny. I said, just this. There was something with setting your bail,
Bank
maybe.
accounts, none.
I didn't fill that paperwork out. I would tell you that.
And again,
This is somebody processing me filled out paperwork.
equity in motor vehicles or other tangible property. You know what you put? Equity, and this is, Judge, I'm about to go to the point of where he signed it under penalty of perjury, and I'm going to ask him if this is his signature.
Overrule the objection.
You know, it says on here, equity in motor vehicles and other tangible property, and it goes on to explain that that means equity in real estate, excluding homestead. You know how much you said that your holdings are worth?
I don't know.
$100,000.
Yeah.
You got a condo
Yeah.
a house in, is it a house in Destin or a condo?
It's a old condo built in the 1970s. So
Okay, it's a condo,
it's
you
not a
got a
high-rise.
house in Panama City, you got a shack in Panama City, you got vacant lots in Florida and in Alabama, and you've got a house in Enterprise, and all of that's worth $100,000. Is that right?
No. I told the
That's
guy,
wrong, isn't it?
it is. I do remember, and I said, just put
And you
100,000.
put on here your total liabilities. On this, you put zero, but on the income and expense statement, you put you had a mortgage and all this other stuff.
Ma'am, I didn't fill that. He asked me that one question.
I want to show you this, and I apologize.
I'm
I'm
okay.
gonna go up and I'm.
Yes, ma'am.
Pardon?
Now,
Sure.
that looked like your signature.
No, but it very well could be. It probably was, yeah.
Okay.
When I was processed in jail, they do a bunch of stuff and then they tell you to sign it.
A person who knowingly provides false information to the clerk or the court in seeking determination of indigent status under section 27.52 FS commits a misdemeanor of the first degree punishable as provided in 775.082, FS or 775.083 FS. I attest that the information I have provided on this application is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. Signed on the 31st day of May of 2024 by a person purporting to be Clyde Wy 0200. Was that you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And the information you provided to the court down there?
That was 2:00 in the morning roughly, being processed in jail. I was not asked most of those questions. I did sign paperwork prior to going to jail. I did not read any of it, to be honest.
Nothing further.
Mr. Burdine, you have redirect?
Mr. Wiley, what if at any other time, other than May 30th, have you been charged with a domestic violence
Never.
claim? Have you ever been convicted of any domestic violence claims?
Never.
Did you point the gun at?
No.
That's all I got, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Roberts, you have anything further? Thank you. You may step down. Mr. Wiley, and have a seat by your lawyer. As I explained to counsel, the courthouse is closing at 4 o'clock at Friday afternoon. We are nowhere close to finishing this case, and we will not be staying late into the night to finish it. So I'm going to allow Ms. Roberts, I believe, says she has a witness who is out of, that she wants to take. I'm not going to require Ms. Burdine to rest her proof, so we'll leave Ms. Burdine's proof open in case you have other witnesses you want to call when we resume this trial. But it is my understanding you want to call this one witness that's here. You will step right up here, please, ma'am. I ask you to raise your right hand and be placed under oath.
Actually, would you state your full name?
Ashley Ann Wiley,
And how old are you?
24.
And where do you currently reside?
Carnation, Washington. It's near Seattle.
Okay. And you are here to give testimony. What kind of relationship do you have?
I would say we're pretty close.
How long have y'all been close?
Since Anna Claire was born, so 2 years and a couple months.
Did you reach out and reestablish a relationship with her after your sister was born?
I believe I friend requested her on Facebook, so I reached out to her.
You knew her previously when your father and her were having a relationship for about 3 years.
Yeah, when I was like 6, 7.
Well, your dad testified that she helped raise you.
I mean, she was around, but my parents had joint custody at the time, so I was pretty evenly divided between.
And that would have been before your dad left to go to Korea.
Yes.
And when your dad was in the military, your mother was not. And they divorced when
Yeah.
you have a brother.
Mhm.
And what is his name?
Mark.
And where does Mark live?
He is in Enterprise, Alabama right now.
Okay. Is he in the military?
Yes,
What branch of the military?
Army.
What does he do?
He is studying flight school right now. He was in the reserves when he was in college before.
So is he full-time military now?
I believe so.
And do y'all have a close relationship?
We're close in the sense that when we talk to each other, we have a lot to talk about, but we don't talk more than twice, 2 or 3 times a month, I'd say.
Times a month. Okay. Tell me about your father's parenting growing up.
It was very harsh. We were walking on eggshells. He would misconstrue a lot of things that me and Mark were doing as children, being kids essentially, and find ways to punish us for it. There was also a lot of talking about my mom. He told us some pretty ugly things about her that I would say, knowing her now, is not true.
Like what? What would he?
He would tell us, oh, your mom gained 40 pounds since we got divorced, and oh, your mom's smoking cigarettes, so she's a bad mom. And he would tell us that, you know, our mom didn't care about us because of either her working or, you know, not being able to do stuff with us all the time because she was working. So he definitely kind of meddled in our relationship with her.
Now, your dad, y'all had a 50-50 plan with your dad when y'all were both, when your mom and him were both in Alabama. And did y'all go week to week, or how did you do it?
They had every other weekend, and I think we would spend mornings at my dad's house and then afternoons at my mom's house. And
Kind of according to their work schedule?
yeah,
And then your dad got deployed and transferred over to Korea for 3 years. How often would you see him during that period?
I saw him one time or 2 times. My
Did you go
apologies.
to Korea?
Once. Yeah.
And then when he came back, as he's testified, that your mother and him entered into an agreement that he left. However long he was gone, he would be primary parent when you came back for the same number of years.
Yeah, so that was the agreement. We had gone down to visit for summer because he was in the States, so it was a little easier for us to go. And the agreement when we had gone down for the summer was that he was still getting his house ready, so then we were gonna go back up to our mom's and then kind of look at it again at Christmas time or summer, or however long it took for him to get his house ready for us to be there.
So where was your mom living at that point in time?
Washington.
Washington. So y'all had moved from Enterprise up to Washington. He's gone to Korea. He came back and he was back in Enterprise
El Paso.
in El Paso, Texas. And so at some point in time, did you, again, you didn't have a definition, you couldn't decide where you wanted to live, but you stayed with your dad predominantly for a period of time, is that correct?
Correct.
And during that period of time, was he ever abusive?
Yes.
Tell me how he was abusive.
He was, I mean, do you want like a story? Okay. Well, when we had first gone down, we had a very close relationship with my mom because we had been there for 3 years, and I don't think he liked the fact that we were so close to our mom. He would tell us that we're too dependent on her and we need her too much. So whatever had sparked it that day, we ended up kneeling on sand, on tile in the corner of our living room. I was in one room and Mark was in the other. And at the time, the only device that I had to communicate with my mom was a Kindle that I had bought for myself. I would message her on it. And he took that and just smashed it to smithereens. And I turned around and I was crying, and he grabbed me by my neck and picked me probably 2 feet off the ground and slammed my face into the corner that I was in. And so after that, I had to talk on the phone to my mom with him, with permission from him. And he made us call our mom and tell her that we didn't want to go back there, even though he had kind of decided that himself. And yeah, I just remember my mom thinking that we didn't want to see her when that wasn't the case at all.
Well, you said you had to, that your punishment was kneeling on sand. Did somebody bring sand into a house?
No, we were in the desert, so since it was in a doorway, there had already kind of been sand tracked into the house, and with breezes and stuff, it just kind of accumulated in the corners.
So he just put y'all in a corner?
Yeah.
Kneel in a corner as punishment?
Yes.
Smashed your Kindle, and then physically assaulted you. Do you know how old you were at that point in time?
14.
Did he make statements to you like, you're gonna stay here until I can straighten you out?
Yes.
Abstain, don't leave the witness.
What kind of statements would he make to you?
Like I said, he would say we were too dependent on our mom. He would say we're too reliant. He would say that we, I don't remember what he would call us, but basically that we were brats because of my mom. And yeah, kind of how you said, he told us that he was going to straighten us out and before either the 3 years was up or we were straightened out for life.
How did his behavior, did he ever drink in the home?
Oh, yeah.
It's not suggestive of the answer to the witness.
Overruled.
Did he ever drink in the home?
Yes.
Did you ever see your father drink to excess?
Yes.
What was his behavior when you would see him drink?
Erratic.
In what way?
It was very violent. He would break things. He would scream. He would spank us. And a pretty traumatizing memory actually is he would go on his laptop and listen to the same song for up to 12 hours straight. And so a lot of those songs now, I cannot physically hear them because they just bring back memories of being around him drinking.
What kind of student were you back in the day when you were with him?
Great.
And did you finally get to go back to your mother?
Yes,
And did you continue your education?
I did.
Your father professes that you graduated from a high school for, well, Your
You know,
Honor,
it seems to be leading. You're telling her what he said, and then, but you can rephrase your question.
what kind of high school did you go to?
It was an online high school.
At what?
Online,
Online high school? Did you have a graduation?
I did.
Father come?
Yes.
Was the school that you went to for troubled teens?
There were troubled teens who did online school because of the situation that they were in, but I wouldn't say it was dedicated to teens that,
Have issues, trouble with law?
a little bit, yeah. It was alcohol related.
So when you went back to live with your mom, did you have an alcohol problem?
Yes.
More than just experimental?
I
Kids sneaking their daddy's beer out of the refrigerator, or did you have alcohol?
I would say it was a problem while it was experimental, but it was kind of like a phase that I grew out of.
Learned behavior?
Absolutely.
Did your mother take steps to ensure that you didn't
She did.
develop a problem? Do you drink now?
No.
Are there other ways that your father would punish you when he would get angry at you?
Yes, he would make me write essays. He many times threatened to only feed me bread and water. Take my phone away, which, like I said, was the only form of communication I had with my mom. That's about all I can think of off the top of my head.
Accuse you of physical misconduct?
Did he what?
Physical misconduct, or did he accuse you of being promiscuous?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I mean, the whole time I lived with him, I was sexualized. It was always something about the clothes I was wearing. He would go through my phone, and if he found out I was even platonically talking to a boy, he would take my phone away. I was in band. I went there early. I would get dropped off by my stepmom at the time at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would wait. And he almost made me drop out of band because a requirement was that I would have to be there before the school bus got me there, and he didn't want me being there early because he didn't want me talking to boys. There was,
A lot of daddies are protective of their little girls. Did it go beyond that?
I think it was excessive.
Did he accuse you all the way back at 13 of being sexually active?
Yes.
Were you?
No.
Would he slut shame you?
Yes.
What do you mean? Define that so for the court to understand what we're talking
Define slut shaming.
about.
Essentially, accusing a girl of being
I'm sorry,
promiscuous.
you were saying slut shaming?
Slut shaming.
Yes.
You think I don't know what it is? You think she has to tell me to? You can state it for the record. I'm familiar with that.
If you tried to dress up and look nice, what would he do?
Oh, he would break me down. I got a dress for 8th grade prom and I came home and I was so excited to show him, and he instantly was like, you need to take this back. You're not wearing this in public.
Hanging out,
No,
showing your breasts,
no.
showing all your privates and all
No.
that stuff. Some of these dresses, some of these people wear today, you can't bend over without.
I mean, it wasn't a long dress, but it wasn't short by any means either.
It was a formal dress.
It was a formal dress, yes.
And how did that make you feel?
Pretty disgusting.
Okay. As a result of the treatment that you had at your father's hands, have you suffered?
Yes, I am diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses.
What are those?
Anxiety, depression, OCD, eating disorder, borderline personality disorder. That's what I got off the top of my head.
Verbal abuse, physical abuse?
Does sound like you're leading the witness. Sustained.
How do you believe that you were abused by your father?
Psychologically, verbally, and physically.
Developed self-esteem issues as a result? Have you
I
developed?
didn't hear the question.
Have you developed self-esteem issues?
Overruled.
Yes.
Your father professes that he did all this to straighten you out. The rule of sequestration is to ensure that the witness does not hear the testimony so that they do not try to coordinate it. It is not.
One at a time, please.
Are you finished with your objection? No.
Ms. Burdine, the rule of sequestration is to prevent someone from having advanced knowledge of what someone else has testified to. Once they are under oath and on the record, they have no advance notice. It is fair game to then present them with some testimony that may be contradictory to what they themselves said. It's a common form of cross-examination of witnesses. It is not a violation of the rule of sequestration. It is designed to elicit a question, an answer as to whether or not they agree or disagree with some prior testimony. So overrule the objection.
Should your father have testified that the behaviors of your mother caused you significant issues?
No, I would say that's completely untrue.
When you were here to testify the first time when we got continued, did your father come up to you and say,
No,
tell him to fuck you?
I wish I did, but no.
Did you
No,
have any communication?
no,
He testified that he came up to speak to you and said, fuck you.
no.
Isn't that what you said?
Hold on just a second.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I wrote that. I apologize if I misheard. If that's my mistake.
One person at a time. Good Lord.
I should have brought my notes. I apologize.
All right, this court did not hear the witness, Mr. Wiley, testify to that extent. I did not hear him state that under oath on the record, so I sustain the objection as being facts, not in evidence.
I apologize. I should have brought my notes.
No. No. I did not respond using vulgarity, no.
Have you been able to communicate with Jennifer Winters, the mother of your half-sister?
Yes,
Have you been able to develop a relationship with your sister?
yes,
Have you had the opportunity to be in her home?
yes,
Have you witnessed how she has parented your half-sister?
yes.
Can you give us an opinion as to whether that's good or bad?
I think it's great. She has a great connection with Anna Claire. She's so sweet, and Anna Claire is just so sweet as well. I think she takes after her mom in that sense.
Wait just a minute, I have some questions again.
All right, Ms. Burdine, you may cross-examine.
Pay for your plane tickets here.
Jenny,
Okay. What else has she bought you?
plane tickets, that's it.
Okay. Isn't it true that the reason why you're here testifying against your father is because you've been demanding college fund money that he was saving for you, but you're not going to college, so he won't give it to you, so you're retaliating by coming in here and making sure that he doesn't have a relationship with Anna Claire. Isn't that true?
I actually went to college. It's already been done, and no, he didn't pay for a dime. I am here to protect my little sister and make sure that nobody has to go through what I went through.
What college did you go to?
Evergreen Beauty College?
Okay, so it wasn't like a four-year college?
No, it was vocational
Just a
school.
hair salon college?
Esthetician,
Okay. Not really college.
vocational school.
Sustain the objection.
Isn't it true that you've told your father on multiple occasions, to wit, February 10, 2024, you're pathetic.
Yes.
Provide for me like a good father does.
Yes.
You're a dead limb to everyone you are supposed to be meaningful to.
You are a dead what?
Limb.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you ask for money and you ask for your college fund again, that he won't give you because it's supposed to be for college education, you said, I'm running in front of the freeway. You can thank yourself when you have a dead daughter. Is that true?
Yes, I was drinking at that time, and like I said, I don't drink anymore, so that was a weak point of mine.
And when you last lived with your dad in the junior high, you had honors and straight A's, didn't you?
Yes,
Okay.
and I continued that into school in Annapolis.
Okay. You didn't get expelled or almost expelled from school when you lived with your mother?
No.
Okay. But you went to online school. You didn't go to a public school.
Yeah, I had requested that
So
myself.
it's impossible to get expelled from an online school, isn't it?
No.
You can't get expelled from an online school, can you?
The online school was through the school district that I went to, so they had if they wanted to kick me out of the school district, they could have.
Now, let's talk about, you did say that you got in trouble with the law while you were living with your mother for alcohol and whatnot. Okay. And you also testified that your father sexualized you?
Yes.
And where did you learn, I mean, who taught you what that means?
Well, I'm 24 years old and I have access to a dictionary, so.
Okay, and what exactly do you mean by when you say that your father sexualized you? Are you trying to say that he was doing something inappropriate sexually with you? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, sexualizing, I wouldn't say is sexual abuse. Sexualizing is constantly accusing a woman of being sexual or making the way she dresses sexual or making the way that she acts sexual.
Okay, and the last time you lived with your father, you were 13, 14, 15, correct?
14.
Okay, so if he said that you were wearing something inappropriate, he was within his authority to do that because he was your father and you were a child. Isn't that true?
I think at 14 years old, it's kind of up to the person
is it?
to wear what they want to
Okay.
wear. Yeah,
And let's talk about the prom dress. What color was it?
green. Yeah,
Is that the green prom dress that you're talking about?
yes.
And you said that your father ripped this prom dress off of you and said that you shouldn't wear it and he was sexualizing you and said that was an inappropriate dress for you to wear. Isn't that what you just testified to?
Yeah, he didn't rip it off me and he didn't make me take it back, but it was a whole ordeal about the dress.
Was it? And who took those photos? Do you know? Your dad took that photo of you, didn't he? In the prom dress.
I don't remember if it was him or my stepmom, but one of them did, yes.
Okay. And then if you show her the other photo, and he took that photo also, and that's the same prom dress?
Yeah, I saw both of the photos.
Your Honor, we would like to tender the green prom dress photos as father's late file exhibit.
We will make that the next exhibit, late file. But it's not We're not gonna make them an exhibit till they, come back on the 26th.
Oh, Exhibit 9.
Exhibit 9 will be the late filed photo of a green prom dress.
You claim that your father punched you in the face and did all these cruel things to you?
Did I say
Kneel
punch
in the
in the face?
sand?
Yeah, I
And-
never said punch in the face.
Okay, what was it that you said?
Did
You
you
said,
want me to see the photograph that you're questioning
Oh.
her of?
oh,
I
the
mean, I know
green
you're
prom
making it-
dress?
Yeah, I mean, if you're making it an exhibit.
Oh, yeah.
I would assume that the person who has to make the decision should take a look at it. What? All right.
So let's talk about the Kindle that you say that your father broke. And then I think you also said, do you recall what you testified to about it was the Kindle? And then you said something that he smashed you in the face, or what was it that he said? What did you say?
So I was facing the corner. He came up from behind me and grabbed me by the neck and lifted me about 2 feet into the air and pressed my face into the wall.
How old were you when you claimed that this happened?
13?
Okay, so close to 14.
Yeah, it might have been younger than that because I was with him for 3 years and this was in the beginning. So if I left when I was 14, I would have been closer to 11 or 12.
Okay, so if you were 13, as you say, okay, because you lived with him for 3 years, 11, if you say 11, then that would be 11, 12, 13, 14, that's 4 years. So we know that you weren't 11.
Okay, so
And you probably weren't 12, you were probably 13, as you said, because that's what you said, 13, close to 14. And you just testified that a 14-year-old's old enough to make decisions as to what kind of clothes she should wear.
yeah.
And so if your father, as you allege, if he really did what you say that he did, you're old enough to know that you could tell somebody that you've been abused by your father. But you didn't do that, did you?
He didn't put his hands off on me after that because he knew that I would. Also, it was summer break and we were brand new, so we didn't know anybody. So I couldn't have really gone.
You didn't call law enforcement?
I didn't have a phone to call law enforcement.
You didn't go to law enforcement?
We were not living near any police station.
You didn't go next door to tell somebody that somebody's abusing you?
I didn't know my neighbors at the time.
And the reason why you didn't do it is because it didn't happen. Isn't that true?
No.
In summary, you're here because you've tried to extort from your father money, and when he won't give in to your demands, you're here to try to make sure that you retaliate by not letting him and testifying against him so he can't have a relationship with Anna Claire. Isn't that true?
No, it's not.
It is.
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
2018. No. And even before that, we didn't communicate. I just invited him to my graduation as a formality. Yes. Yes.
Turn your microphone on there at the table if you would.
I realized where I got my language, that he did not, you didn't say that when you were in court. And I apologize. And there's another reference. But last communications 2018, you asked him for your college money. He refused. And I'm, I'll get to it, Judge. So the last
I'll
face-to-face
sustain the
conversation,
objection and let you rephrase.
the last face-to-face conversation you had with him was what?
20, it was actually when my brother graduated in 2019.
2019. 2018, you asked for college money.
Yes.
Didn't get it.
Yes.
You saw him face-to-face in 2019 at your brother's. And then y'all had communications after that.
Yes.
Did you ask him for money?
And the February 24 that she was talking
What were you
about,
asking that money for?
college.
And that's to finish your anesthetician.
Yeah, I finished with that. I would love to go back to school or start my own business. I could use the money for either of those, but college would be nice, yes.
You asked for it, and he refused. And are you here today in retaliation for that?
No.
The word extortion was used.
Yeah.
Ever threaten your father and say, unless you give me money, I'm going to say bad things about you, untrue things about you,
No.
or true things about you?
No.
What was the context of the text message that they were talking about?
It was more, I wanted the money, and I knew that there was room for error in the rental properties that he had, so I thought I could leverage that against him, but I never said anything about coming here and saying things about him or anything like that. It
Is that
was,
the purpose why you're here?
no,
And again, state for the court, why are you here?
I'm here to protect my little sister.
Were you mistreated as a female child
Yes,
by your father?
yes,
That's your father sitting over here.
yes.
That's all. Thank you.
Anything further, Ms. Burdine?
Last text message that you sent to your father was April 18th of this year, correct?
Sure.
And
All right, show it to council.
well, Your Honor, this is, it's rebuttal evidence is what it is for Mr. Wiley to be able to address these harsh accusations that are patently false against him, and to what the motivation is of why this young lady is making these allegations against her father.
Objection is overruled, you may ask.
So the last communication that you had, the last text that you sent to your dad was, I mean, ideally, I would have gotten the college fund you saved for me when I graduated high school, but yeah, it would be cool to get these benefits too.
Correct.
And that was with your dad telling you that he was trying to help you, and he was hoping that one day you'd be able to communicate with him without negativity, and that if you would like to get things off your chest and your perspective, he would gladly listen. And if it,
You're just reading or summarizing a text messages. It's not the appropriate way to ask her a question. If you're going to ask her a question about him, ask the question and let her testify.
well, yes, Your Honor, I was just trying to get to what the benefits were, and the benefits were that he was hoping to be able to communicate with her without all the negativity from her. And then she just responds, it would have been great to get money from
I
you.
sustain the objection if you'll ask the question. please.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So basically, we look back to the last text messages that between you and your father. What we'll find is that your father was telling you he loves you and cares about you, and you just respond with this vitriolic hate towards him and demanding money, and if he doesn't give it to you, you're going to kill yourself and call him all these terrible names. Isn't that true?
Well, first, I said nothing of the sort in the most recent text messages. Second, he actually had gotten through to me because he was offering money to pay for my college. So my response to him giving me money had already been on the basis that he had contacted me about giving me money.
Okay. Now, would you say, are you scared of your dad?
Physically, yes.
Okay. So do you think that saying things like, do you truly expect this court to believe that saying things like, you're pathetic, provide for me like a good father does, you're a dead limb to everyone you're supposed to be meaningful to, and threatening to kill yourself to your father if he doesn't give you money is indicative of someone who's afraid of Mr. Wiley?
When you're across the country, yes.
Okay.
It could be. Two things can exist at the same time.
Okay, sure. All right, nothing further, Your Honor.
If she's been asking that she hasn't moved to make him an exhibit, Ms. Roberts, All right. Make them, we'll make them a late file exhibit 10. Anything else for this witness? Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. All right, that brings us to 4 o'clock. We will adjourn for the day and resume this matter on the 26th day of June at 9 o'clock in the morning.